Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I am not the host, Michael Hansen, but I am hopefully one of the next two best things here. I am Omar Artola in the state of Florida, doing fantastically well. Mark, my compadre today here, Mark Priaulx from the great state of New York, mid-state of New York. He is here.
Come on, you're from here, bro. That's what you're gonna say about your home state?
I fucking left for a reason.
Damn. All I see is your Instagram post talking shit about Florida. What's they do?
Oh, I do. Florida is fucking out of control, but the weather is A+. A+. So, for those of you who haven't realized it yet, Mike Hansen will not be joining us today. We unfortunately do not have the voice of our podcast. Him and his wife, Lindsay, have officially received a new bundle of joy in the world. I believe the little man's name is Wesley Andrew Hansen, coming in at a smooth 7 pounds, 9 ounces of straight stuttery. And let's give a quick round of applause to Daddy of Two, Michael Hansen, Michael and Lindsay.
Yes. Shout out to the boy Wesley. Shout out to Mike and Lindsay and to William, the family of four over there.
Absolutely.
We said this last week, I think, didn't we? We were like, it's going to be time to talk Izzy, and Mike's not going to be here to do it. And what do you know?
Yep.
One of the biggest reaction fights that we've had. No, Mike. He should have just locked down from the hospital for the Izzy recap, and then he could have dipped.
I don't blame the kid. I think the kid wanted to be out of the womb by the time this episode dropped so he could hear what was going on. He's heard so much about what Izzy did this weekend. He's like, I got to hear what's going on. So there we go. I love it.
Fair.
Shout out to them. And the mom is doing well. Baby is doing well. So we're thinking about them and wish them good fortune going forward. Very exciting times for them. And if you thought Mike was fucking tired before, ladies and gentlemen, ooh, this boy is going to be on some other shit.
I'm just hoping he's on this show next week.
Yeah. All right, cool. Today we're going to be going over a few of the fights, or all of the fights really, from UFC 287, of Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira 2. Oh my God. I don't know if you listen to Chael Sonnen. I could listen to Chael Sonnen to go to fucking sleep at this point.
I mean, occasionally I catch him, but I haven't heard anything this week.
This man can't pronounce somebody's name to save his life. We'll get into it in a minute. But we're going to go through some of these recaps. Then we'll go through our lightning round for the rest of the card. Then we will jump into our Priaulx rankings as we always do to find out who rose and who's fallen this past weekend. I will give you guys some inside the MMA Sphere news and what is trending here, along with some fight announcements. And then we're going to go into the PFL for this weekend's card. Their PFL 3 for the 2023 regular season, with the main event being OAM and Shane Burgos, with the arrival of Shane Burgos to the PFL, the much-awaited arrival of Shane Burgos. And then we're going to hop into a fantastic little card, UFC Fight Night, Holloway versus Allen, and talk about the fights on there. And then we do have, I don't know if, Mark, you have some trivia, but your boy does.
I don't. Glad you have it.
So we have a little something here.
Then.
It is not the typical multiple choice as Mike would usually give us, but we got what we work with. So there it is.
Right.
So let's get right into it. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Israel Adesanya. Last style bender. Remember the name. Respect the name. All you chooches out there thinking that shit is just a done deal because he'd won, 3 He caught Izzy 3 different times in fights that he was losing. Come on, dog. Come on. All right, Mark, why don't you take us in first and give us your reaction on the beautiful second round KO of Alex Pereira via Izzy murder hands.
Let's do it. So your boys, Mark and Omar, called this thing. I missed it by a round. I said round 3. What'd you say? I don't remember. Did you say finish or decision? Yeah, I think you said decision. But we called the W. I almost really nailed it. But yeah, look, by the time I finish this take, there are probably going to be people in the comments calling me an Izzy fanboy. I will tell you right now, I'm not even a huge Izzy fan. I'm becoming one. But I've rooted against him in a few of his recent fights, so it's not like this is one of my guys. But I am going to give you this take. From what I just saw, from the second Mark Goddard stopped the first fight to the second Izzy walked out of the cage in this one is one of the greatest mental and physical performances I have ever seen in mixed martial arts. This man was unbroken to have lost twice already to Alex Pereira in kickboxing, then be the UFC champion and have him hunt you down there, then to have him take everything away from you, finish you in the cage, take your belt, make it 3-0. For most people, that would have been a truly debilitating feeling. Not for Israel Adesanya. From the second that first fight ended, as soon as he gets to the back, you can watch the thrill and the agony or whatever other behind-the-scenes stuff there is. As soon as he gets to the back, he is talking calmly, happily. He's not upset. Talking about how he knows he's going to get him next time, how he knows it. And he carried that confidence through the whole camp, all the internet talking about, oh, it's 3-0. Why is this fight happening again? All the replays of him being finished all camp long. He said he knew he'd finish Alex Pereira, and he said he would do it quick. And he came into the cage against the man that finished him twice already with unreal power and decided to walk forward to change the fight. He wasn't tentative. He wasn't worried. He walked forward despite knowing and having felt the power that was waiting for him. He made the choice to be the aggressor because he knew he could beat him if he fought the right fight. And I said it. I said I thought he'd fight at a higher pace. I said he'd be more aggressive. I said he'd take more risks, staying in the pocket. And he did exactly that. I mean, hell, he had Pereira circling for most of round 1, circling on the outside. Then round 2 comes. Pereira does start walking him down, but he stands his ground. He stands his ground and exchanges and shows Pereira that he was there. And ultimately, he friggin' rope-a-dopes him. Pereira thinks he has Izzy in trouble against the cage. He throws a left that he lazily retracts and leaves down at his side instead of bringing back to his face. Izzy sees it. He opens up with a combo, and next thing you know, Pereira is getting hammer-fisted into the earth's core. Then from there, you get the 3 arrows celebration, which was one of the dopest fucking celebrations I've ever seen in my life. It's Pereira's move that he does on his way to the octagon. 1 arrow for each of the losses that Izzy overcame. The emotion in it, whether you liked it or not after that, him knowing exactly where Pereira's son was, who mocked him after the first KO, pointing to him in the crowd, mocking him back. He knew it all. He saw it all in his head, and he knew he would be able to do it, and he did it. And then you get to the post-fight interview. People, Earth, you'll never know what happens if you don't try. Like, the whole thing from beginning to end was one of the greatest stories I've ever seen told in MMA, and props to the king once again, Israel Adesanya. I will not ever forget that night.
Makes me even more upset that I could not afford UFC Miami tickets, because fuck, what a scene that must have been in the actual
I didn't even think about that you were intending to go to that. Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. The tickets were, it was, especially in my current situation, the tickets were fucking absurd. So couldn't do it. It was an amazing experience though to watch that. I spilled like the Wild Wings that I was at was, bro, the Wild Wings I was at, first of all, was out of control. I was actually super surprised that there were that many people there. I normally go to those for pay-per-views, and it's never really packed in there, almost never, to the point where the manager starts talking shit about us, and he's like, no one even watches these things. It's the same 6 people that come here every time.
Do you think it was because of Jorge?
I think so, man, because as soon as Jorge came on the screen, Everybody started cheering and whistling and getting fucking crazy. This one chick just like poured her beer on the floor. I didn't really know what happened there. It got rowdy, man. And then by the time Izzy knocked out Pereira, everybody's drinks were everywhere. I spilled shit all over myself. Tables were full of liquid. It was a massacre in that place. But as far as the specific fight is concerned, the way I feel about his entertainment value, he's almost like improv to me, because I don't think that he sits around and thinks about doing those specific things. I think he's so loosey-goosey with how he is, and he accepts who he is and how weird he is and how nerdy he is. The Unleashed thing, that's a deep cut, bro. Like, who's actually... So this is why I love Izzy, right? You might hate him for that deep cut. I love him because me and him are probably the only two fucking people on this earth that has actually watched that movie repeatedly, to the point to know how important that collar is, and like the magnitude of what that collar really means. And I knew it right away. As soon as I saw it, I knew.
I don't even know what's the collar.
So it's a movie. It's a Jet Li movie. I highly recommend. It's actually a really good movie. It did not get enough love. I think something else came out that year that kind of didn't shine a good light on it. But anyway, the movie's called Unleashed. It's a Jet Li movie. I think it had another name called Danny the Dog. I think that might have been an international title or something. Basically, the movie is about Jet Li growing up with this fucked up like gang boss guy who raised him from a kid. But basically, the Jet Li was like the fighter guy, but got tamed by this guy. So he would have a collar around him at all times, walking around with this guy as he like intimidates and collects money and does all the mob things that mob people do. And when people didn't do what he said and he needed to fuck them up, he would take the collar off of Jet Li, and Jet Li would go full fucking berserker on people and wreck people constantly in that movie. And the movie itself is about Jet Li leaving, like escaping that life and trying to find humanity with Morgan Freeman and his family and all this other shit. So it's a nice story, but the collar itself is basically that. It was him being chained up as a dog, him sort of having to hold himself back, internalize everything. And then once the collar was loose, and you saw he waited until he got to the check with the referee to take that collar off. And that was when he was unleashed. That was the moment where he was able to break out and go full psycho, basically. Good movie. Highly recommend. But I think his improv, man, his ability to think on the spot and be an entertainer and kind of work off of the information he's given, especially with those arrows and stuff, like, for him to come up with that in the moment right after that's happening, and for him to go and taunt that kid. And a lot of people have their opinions about that and about an adult having to taunt a minor. Fuck that kid. All right. Fuck that kid. Kid wants to play the game. Kid wants to come in there and start talking shit at like 5-6 years old. There it is. Game played. Fuck you. That's how I feel about it. But yeah, I loved every minute of it, man. The fight I thought was great. He was definitely the most aggressive Izzy I think we've seen in 3, 4, 5 fights, maybe even,
Yep.
And I got to be honest, man, my butthole was a little puckered in that exchange, because I thought I saw Izzy get hurt by the leg kick, and we know that the leg kicks were a big problem in the first fight. And as soon as he got hurt by the leg kick, I was like, oh shit, this is not looking great. Gets hit with a knee, and then all of a sudden Izzy just whips out the knockout blows, and it was one of the craziest moments, man. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Izzy's value is absolutely absurd, and it's hard not to have him be the greatest middleweight of all time. I don't see how anybody could argue otherwise, especially considering he beat Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva is the only other person that I would even mention in the greatest middleweight of all time talk, and he beat him. And I think at this point, especially at this point, Izzy's resume is disgusting. And I think it's very likely that he should be considered the greatest middleweight of all time.
We'll save that conversation for another day.
Very good. Very good.
I think I'm still Team Anderson.
Listen, I love Anderson Silva. I do. And it might be different once, like if Izzy retired today and we didn't see like a great fall from him or something like that, maybe it would, we could have a different type of conversation. But Anderson Silva kept going, I think, a lot longer than he should have.
Yeah, I mean, Izzy beat Anderson Silva when he was 44.
Yeah.
Or 43.
Yeah.
3.
But Izzy's also gone through a murderer's row of people at 185 too. It's the value of all those other wins as well. Some of them a lot more boring than others, but still great fights. Great. All right, dude, let's see. What do we think is going to happen with Israel now going forward? I know the middleweight division is a little odd right now. Some people are talking about a trilogy fight, which I don't buy, at least not right away. So what do you think that happens?
Bro, I don't know. It's kind of wild, if we're being honest, because now that Izzy has slayed this dragon in Pereira, if they're not going to complete the trilogy right now, we're kind of back to the spot of like, well, Izzy kind of beat everyone already. I mean, he beat Whitaker twice. He beat Vettori twice. He beat Costa. He beat Cannonier. Plenty of others. The only couple guys toward the top that he hasn't beaten are Sean Strickland, who's only on a one-fight win streak at the moment, so he's got work to do. It's not going to be Chimaev this fast now that he's coming to middleweight. He's already been linked to Paulo Costa. That might even be official. I forget.
Yep.
So really the only guy left in the whole middleweight landscape that makes any type of sense is Dricus du Plessis. And it kind of felt like he was going to need one more win. But like as this has all shaken out, it's like either they got to run back this trilogy right now and settle it, or it's going to be Dricus. I really don't see any other scenario. And him and Izzy are already talking some shit to each other. I kind of think this guy's going to fall right into a title shot without getting another win.
Yeah, and it's going to be a messy one if they do end up going against each other, because this is going to be a whole who's more African than who. And
agree, it could get ugly.
Yeah, it's a very charged time in the world to be playing that bullshit. But that's exactly what's going to happen, because that's exactly what's been happening already. Yep. So that'll be interesting to see if that does end up happening.
Is that what you think
but
too?
I agree. I mean, what happened?
No, so I said, is that what you think too? But you said it is.
Yeah. And I think, Israel kind of touched on it a little bit in his post-fight press conference. He didn't really mention him by name, but he kind of said he wanted to spark him. Like he wanted a chance to wreck du Plessis. And du Plessis
he was
kind
going
of
to drag his carcass across Africa. That's what he said.
That's, one would call that a threat.
Yes.
Right. Side point here. Again, I keep talking about Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen calls du Plessis Duplessis.
That's what a lot of people were saying in the beginning, until in every post-fight interview he was like, "My name is Dricus du Plessis."
Yeah, no. Not the Chael. Duplessis.
No. Probably Dricus du Plessis.
I don't even think he gives it a first name. He just goes straight for the Plessis. All right. What about Pereira now? Does Pereira go to 205? Does Pereira stay at 185 and actually puts in some work in the division? What are you thinking?
So I get why people are saying he could go to 205 because, as we've said before, he's such a weight bully. He's so fucking big. He could easily fight at 205. To me, though, if we're not going to do the trilogy right now, and Izzy is going to fight someone like Dricus, if Pereira got another great win, I could see the very next fight being the trilogy. So if I'm him, I'm trying to take another middleweight fight. It sounds like, as I said, that we're going to get Costa and Chimaev, which kind of leaves like that foursome of Whitaker, Vettori, Cannonier, and Pereira. And Whitaker has already fought both of those other guys and beat them. So to me, it's like take Cannonier and Vettori, let them fight each other, and make the big fight. Make Robert Whitaker, Alex Pereira. And if
so, you sent something. Sorry, I was going to say you sent something. I think you sent something to us the other day where the idea was Alex Pereira moves up to 205.
Oh yeah.
Ideally, in a perfect world, Pereira wins the belt at 205. Izzy has the belt at 185, and you get a trilogy fight potentially at 205 for a champ status. You could even argue you can have Pereira go back down to 185 and try his hand at champ status. either way, a trilogy fight with two guys with a belt at that point probably sells a lot better than an immediate trilogy fight.
It's insane. It's just, how do you tell the 205-pound division, like, hey, guys, this guy just lost at middleweight, but he's going to fight for the title against Jamal Hill? I just feel like it's not realistic. I get it. I get the appeal. But I don't know how you actually pull that off.
I think Pereira could slip in right into the top 5. I think he would only need one big win in order for it to happen.
Yeah, if he beats someone, different story. If he beats someone at 205, I mean, that totally different story. But
205, frankly, is up for grabs as far as I'm concerned. That, I love Jamal Hill. I think Jamal Hill could actually beat a lot of these guys. But there's nobody in that division that's like, maybe it's the John Jones effect. Maybe the fact that this man was so dominant and just, that is the bar for 205, that nobody has seemed to reach that point. And so, without reaching that point, it just seems like an Alex Pereira could come in and really do some shit in that division.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about this fight before we move on?
I'm good to go.
All right. Congratulations to Israel Adesanya for his moment on our coveted, exclusive, subscriber-only marquee.
Oh, man.
Quote, unquote, parentheses, sarcasm in jest, ladies and gentlemen.
What was the word
Tone
again?
it down.
We were delusional?
We were delusional. Tone it down.
Oh, boy.
We know what this is. You see I'm in my room with like a single heavy bag in a closet, right? We know what this is. Tone it down. All right. Next on the list, Gilbert Burns' unanimous decision over Jorge Masvidal, as Chael Sonnen would like to say, George Masvidal.
Jorge Masvidal. Call him George. I don't understand it.
It's the oddest thing.
It's not his name. If people called me like Merck, I would be like, stop doing that.
My dad. People call my dad William. His real name is Guillermo, right? That's his Hispanic.
It's
name.
the translation, at least. Well, all right, the translation of yeah, duh.
Yeah, but William is not his name.
It's not. Yeah.
But he just smiles. He smiles and waves. He's just nice.
Yeah.
Jorge Masvidal retired after this fight. Very long career. That man his first professional fight was in 2003, I believe, and God only knows how long he was fighting before then. Off the books, if you will. He's had a great career, especially these last few years. Ben Askren, the Darren Till knockout, kind of getting his momentum, having a couple different title shots here. Unfortunately, not getting to the tippy top of the mountain, but the man made it to a very damn near base camp. So congratulations to him. God knows he's rich as shit at this point. Definitely far from where he started out in his career as far as monetary value is concerned. So good on him. And Gamebred Boxing looks like something I probably will watch on a regular basis if it's that good again. So
true. You want to take this one first? Or you want me to go first again?
I will take this one first. I was sad to see how right I was about this fight. Kind of knew Gilbert was going to be able to control him. And I think Masvidal, he had an interview with Ariel today, and it was all the things we kind of talked about last week. Is I really see Masvidal losing a step. His defense is not the same. His ability to dodge is not the same. His ability to slip is not the same. The man has power, he has power. He doesn't have the same explosiveness. He used to be able to do a switch hook super, super quick. And it's so telegraphed now because of how much slower that technique is now, and it's father time being a bitch, and there's not really much that anybody could do about it. My interpretation to a certain degree has always been that he has never really been the most disciplined athlete when it came to the MMA game. If you put up side by side him and Colby, just as an example, Colby doesn't drink. I don't think he smokes. I don't think he fucking eats McDonald's. I don't think you know what I mean? I don't think he does any of that. I don't think you're going to see him have a pizza sandwich. You know, like it's not going to happen. And at some point, especially when you're talking about the tippy top of the hardest sport in the world, the sacrifices that you see guys like Colby making, and even guys like Kamaru and things like that, that does give them an edge. And I don't think Jorge Masvidal ever committed that hard to that part of the game. And I think it cost him. But it doesn't mean that he didn't put on a lot of great fights. But I think you saw the difference in the level that Gilbert Burns, who does that kind of stuff. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. The man takes fucking hair samples of himself to see how biologically accurate he is and balanced he is and all this other crazy shit. These guys are on, they're on some extra stuff. And I don't think Masvidal was, and it showed in the cage, man. He got outworked. He got outworked, outstruck. I don't want to say dominated necessarily, because I think he did make Gilbert work for it, and Gilbert never really got, a position where I thought he was going to beat Masvidal, like finish Masvidal. But Masvidal was never able to put in a game of his own with how much he was defending.
Yeah, no, I agree. Honestly, Gilbert teased us in round 1, or at least for most of it. He finally shot with like 10 seconds left. But for like 5 minutes, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this motherfucker, like, he's really just going to come in here and trade with Jorge after all this jiu-jitsu talk. But no, at the end of round 1, as I said, he goes for it. Round 2, he comes out, goes right back to the wrestling. And it was all downhill after that for Jorge, which is what I expected. He handled Jorge on the mat. Jorge defends subs well. He always has. We said it last week. But he tired Jorge out, and he positioned himself to be able to put on a show in round 3. And that's exactly what he did. He had Jorge backing up to the fence. He was able to really load up on some big strikes, multiple big overhands, more groundwork. He just put a beating on Jorge for the most part in that round. Kind of sucked to see Jorge get it put on him like that. I mean, I know things haven't been going right for a little bit. Dominant showing for Gilbert Burns, reminded everyone how good he is. And for Jorge, you said most of it, he went out battling. He couldn't turn the tide, but he battled. He ate shots. He said it himself. He's not feeling it in there anymore, and I'm glad he has called it when he did. He made this point too, but he positioned himself in his life now in a place where he's set. He's fine. He doesn't need this. And I'm glad he was self-aware enough to not continue to force it, because, as you said, it kind of happened quick. Like his big run wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was some circumstances that came together at the right times, but he looked a lot quicker, even like a year and a half, 2 years ago, than he does right now. So he sensed it. He knew it. Time to step away. Good for him, and a great win for Gilbert Burns, who puts himself right back in the outside of the title picture here.
Yep. So tell us, what is next for Mr. Burns here and the disaster that is the welterweight division?
So I want the UFC to change their plans, or at least the plans that they've mentioned, and move off of the Bilal Shavkat idea. Now that I've thought about this more. Because with Leon and Colby getting made, you have 4 guys who are kind of outside looking in, which is Usman, Bilal, Gilbert, and Shavkat. And I think the number one contender fight that makes the most sense to have someone waiting for the winner of Leon and Colby is Bilal and Burns. Shavkat maybe isn't quite at that point yet. You're not going to give it to Usman right now. So to me, I'd actually match Usman with Shavkat. The winner of that obviously is still a factor, but I think you do Bilal and Burns, and the winner of that fight is ready and waiting for the winner of Colby and Leon. I think that makes a lot more sense.
Jesus. That's a big step up for Shavkat.
Yeah, but he's fighting one of these guys. It's all going to be a big step up, whoever it is. I know Usman's the biggest, but...
All right.
What do you think?
Right. I mean, it's a mess, dude. It's a mess. I do think that Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns need to fight. Gilbert's already talking about being a backup fighter for the Covington Edwards fight, which now seems to be the new I want the number one contender spot, is this backup
Yeah, I don't like
spot.
it. I don't like the backup thing. I really don't. Like, that's
Seems
the last
odd.
thing I want to hear is like, hey, he weighed in, so now it's going to be his fight. Like, no, let's make a fight to see who should get the fight. Like, it's the fight game. It's not the weigh-in game.
I will say, when it came to the Colby Covington thing, and kind of we've discussed what are the merits of him getting this fight, right? Like, what has he done in the last 18 months or whatever it is? We know about the Masvidal thing. We know about the court case. We know about his quote-unquote alleged medical issues and things like that. But apparently he was offered multiple fights that he did not turn down, supposedly.
Yeah, no,
and
I
people
read
on
this
the
too, yeah.
and the people on the other end of the contract agreements turned down the fight with Colby. So if Colby was ready to fight,
read Chimaev was the one that nixed his fight with Colby.
So if Colby was willing to fight 3 top contenders in a year, and they all turned him down, to a certain degree, I almost say that's not his problem. You know what I mean?
True,
Like he shouldn't be penalized for turning down for not turning down fights and people turning them down on their end. So
yeah,
after hearing that, I was less gripey about the title shot, to be honest. I still think I would have preferred a clarity, though, to a number one contender. I understand why he's getting the title shot, but even a Bilal versus Colby would have made me feel better about it, or a Burns versus Colby, or something there to make it be like, okay, now we know who's number one contender now. But it, I understand what happened a lot more than I did last week. So there's that.
Yep, agree. And yeah, shout out to Jorge, man. What a career.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about this a bit last week, but he was, I don't want to say he was just a guy, but like he was a fun fighter for most of his career. Like when he announced his retirement, he never would have got fanfare the way he did until like 4 years ago, something like that. Like the man turned his career on a dime and went from being a really good fighter, like a high-level fighter, but he turned himself into a superstar through a string of like 3 fights, and he did it overnight. He got a tequila brand out of it. Tequila, is that what he has? I'm blanking. I think it's tequila or mezcal. Got Game Bred Boxing out of it. All these other things. Like he turned his whole life around. So to see him get the love and respect that he got as if he was a legend this weekend, which he now is, you could say. He did that for himself. When only, X amount of years ago that wouldn't have been the case is pretty awesome. But he has always been a fighting legend, if you will, or a legend in the streets, however you want to put it. Like the man started in fucking Kimbo's backyard. If you're old enough, you remember these days watching these damn videos being like, what the hell is going on in these videos? What are these maniacs doing? And Jorge just freaking whooping dudes when he was called Ponytail in the backyard, and going from that through every damn promotion there practically is. I mean, the dude fought, I'm going back right now, he fought in Absolute Fighting Championships. He fought in Bodog, which is where he head kicked Yves Edwards, which was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Fought in Strike Force. Fought in Sengoku. I mean, I'm skipping other ones that you don't even know what they are. Fought in Bellator, Strike Force again, and eventually the UFC. Like, the dude fought everywhere. He fought everyone. He had a good amount of decisions that went against him, split decisions, close decisions, things like that, where if they went the other way, he could have broken through much sooner. But even in the UFC, he subbed Michael Chiesa. He puts out Jake Ellenberger, puts out Donald Cerrone, knocks out Darren Till, the flying knee on Ben Askren, the stoppage of Nate Diaz. Like, late in his career, it really came together. And it was incredible. And he became a guy who you loved to watch. Just the whole persona that he put on, the Miami Scarface persona that he adopted later in his career, all the sayings that he was going to baptize dudes and super necessary and 3-piece and a soda, all of it. He turned himself into must-see TV, and props to him. And, of course, he will be missed as a big part of the personality of the UFC the past few years.
I feel like a chooch now. I should have worn my 3-piece Minnesota shirt.
Ah, dude, you absolutely should have.
Wife and I had we made a purchase a few years ago when that went down because it was brilliant.
Nice. Love
no
that.
regrets.
Yeah, you should have. Definitely blew it.
Yeah, fuck. All right. Let us move on from this. Street Jesus, thank you for all of the fights.
Yes.
Next on the list here, Rob Font's first round KO of my boy, Adrian Yanez. This one, I was super sad to be right about. I did not give the KO. I don't think I went KO on this one. I think I also went decision on it as well. I thought the volume and the movement would kind of carry throughout the 3 rounds. But Adrian Yanez needs more head movement. Can't believe that's where we're at. I really can't believe that's where we're at. But that was really the story of the fight, man. Yanez put it on Rob Font. Yanez had the power. Rob Font's eye was blown up by the end of that first round. By the time that fight was done, I don't even think, obviously didn't even go the entire round. So it didn't take much for Yanez to put some damage on Rob Font. And like we said, Yanez had the power for sure, just not the power to sleep him, with one punch. He would have had to put some things together, and I didn't think that he would be able to put those combinations together against Rob Font, and he couldn't. Rob Font, however, touched Yanez all over the place. I mean, it was crazy. He was laying in 2-3 hit combinations. Yanez was not moving out of the way, very stationary, very flat-footed, all things considered. And I think in my head, Yanez may have had an assumption that he would be able to maybe quickly slip out of the way and return quickly, or maybe beat him to the punch and not have to slip out of the way to begin with. Whatever the game plan was, it obviously did not go to plan because Rob Font put the beating on him. Beautiful 2-piece that just laid Yanez out on the floor. And Rob Font reminds everybody that he's still elite, and Yanez still has a little ways to go before we get to that top.
Yeah, I mean, what a statement for the boy Rob Font, man. He didn't just beat a top prospect; he floored him. He took him out in style. And I'm not surprised that Yanez was getting hit clean, man. I said it last week. He gets hit to start fights. We've seen it a lot. The Yanez show generally tends to start in round 2 once he makes his reads and his adjustments. Tony Kelly got a special show in round 1 just because he can't strike. But generally speaking, with the rest of Yanez's opponents, that's how it goes. And I thought that could be the same thing here. But what I never counted on is that Yanez wouldn't even make it to see round 2. I mean, Rob Font had 1 finish in his last 7 fights coming into this one. Like, he's not really that guy. So I never saw him putting Yanez down in one like that. But, man, he rocked Yanez badly. And, we see now that Yanez is going to have to adjust to fighting these top guys. He was giving it as good as he was getting it in there for the most part. But he can't play this take one to give one game that he plays with guys who are this good. And he's still young as hell. I'm sure he'll adjust. I'm sure he'll be back. The future is hopefully still as bright as we thought it was, but did not go his way on Saturday, and a monster statement from Rob Font to really bounce back from 2 rough losses.
Yeah. All right. Where do we think Rob Font will be going from here?
So he asked for Davison Figueiredo, which I would have been cool with, but now we hear that Figgy is saying he's going to commit to 3 more fights at flyweight. Apparently talked to Uriah Faber and his team, and they came to some understanding that they thought he should go for 1 more run here at flyweight, so that seems to be the plan. I had previously wanted Petr Yan to welcome Figgy to 135, but with that out of the question now, I actually think Yan Font is the perfect fight to make. So I'm doing that.
Yeah. I wonder how much time Figueiredo is about to invest in another flyweight run here, because the man is on the wrong side. It was going to be on the wrong side of 30 not too long from now. And the title shot is not going to come immediately at this point, especially if Moreno sticks around. Pantoja shows up. Maybe we get a little bit of, versatility or whatever, but Davidson's playing a dangerous game there.
I'm surprised.
Interesting to see how that.
I thought the bantamweight move made a lot of sense.
I agree. I thought the fights were there for him, and I thought that was a winnable division, all things considered. The wrestling, I think, is where he would probably have the hardest time, but he's got the power, man, to spark a lot of these guys at 135, I think, still. What about Yanez? Where do we think Yanez is going?
I mean, he needs a bit of a reset. I said it, we all said it, I think, when this fight was made, that it was a huge jump, and it worked out badly for Yanez. I think he needs to fight someone now in that area that he kind of skipped over, and I think there's a lot of names that could provide different tests who he hasn't really, different styles of tests that he hasn't really dealt with. As we said, he basically fought Davy Grant and a bunch of randoms and got jumped to Rob Font. So I think he could fight a Raoni Barcelos, a Victor Henry, Jonathan Martinez, the loser of Munhoz and Gutierrez that we're about to preview today. Like, there's a lot of guys who you put any of them across from Yanez, and it's like, yep, that's going to be interesting. Let's see if he can pass that test. So someone in that general area and not someone who is a top 10 bona fide killer.
Yeah, that was my thought, was the loser of the Munhoz Gutierrez fight of this weekend. Timing wise, I thought it would also work out too. No one's having to burn and wait on the sidelines.
Yep.
All right, man. Let us move right along here. Kevin Holland KOs Santiago Ponzinibbio in the third round. Mark, what do you think about this fight? How do you think Kevin Holland did here, and what about his performance?
So I was annoyed through about 2 rounds. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, I don't really get the way that he's fighting. I felt like he wasn't being as aggressive as he should have been. I felt like he was passing on some openings where it looked like he maybe could have landed or just kind of gone for a little more than he was. And I'm like, man, this fucking guy's coasting in here. Like, he's lost 2 in a row. I thought he was winning the rounds, but in my head, I was like, fuck, like, I hope he doesn't, like, let this slip somehow. Then I learned after the fight that he's basically fighting the damn fight one-handed. So, typical Kevin Holland. I don't know why this man took this fight when he wasn't close to fully healed. It's not like he's dying for money, but thankfully he got it done anyway. And Pons made it competitive. Like I said, he wasn't winning the rounds, I didn't think, but they were close, and Pons was landing, and he was chewing up Holland's leg, making Holland work. And I even started to think after the when we got into the third round, I was like, man, there's no possibility of like a weird decision here going against Holland, right? Like, I was starting to get a little worried, and then Holland just puts the worry to bed. He lands a massive left hook. Pons went straight down, landed on his face, didn't move, ate another punch, still didn't move. So there was zero controversy to me on that stoppage. I saw way too many people tweeting that it was a shitty stoppage. I'm like, what are you fucking watching? So anyway, Kevin Holland still gets it done in style, despite being such a Kevin Holland. And he needed it. So well done by him. And now he's going to get another chance, I would think, to break through at welterweight.
My brother-in-law said that fight got stopped too early. That Ponzinibbio got right up and was like he was fine. And his logic was, if he got up that quickly, there was no way he was knocked out. I was like, sir, he was face down, ass up on the canvas.
All of his weight was on his eyebrows.
His fucking arm was like fucking dead on the floor. Kevin Holland rocks his ass another time and then decides to leave him alone. And yeah, eventually he got up pretty quickly after that. But we've also seen guys get knocked out,
happens, man.
Slam their face on the floor, and wake up as a result of getting slammed on the floor.
Yeah.
So I thought it was the perfect call. I also agree. People want death a little too much in this sport sometimes. I thought that was a perfectly valid point to stop that fight. I thought it was a great performance from Kevin Holland, especially considering the fact that I guess so for those of you who don't know about the injury from Kevin Holland, in his previous fight with Wonder Boy, where he decided to kickbox the fucking world-renowned kickboxer, he broke his right hand pretty badly and had to get surgery on it as a result. As it turns out, the hand had not fully healed, or at least not healed to the point where he wasn't feeling it anymore. And so he said he didn't train with 4-ounce gloves at all during his camp. And and when he got into the octagon is the first time that he was really putting on the 4-ounce gloves to use them. Supposedly there was I guess people noticed that he was talking to Dana about his gloves either before or after, or his hand, I should say. Apparently he was saying that he was worried about his right hand because he hadn't used it in 4-ounce gloves and he wasn't sure how it was going to hold up, which is why he led with the jab for a majority of that fight and kind of picked him from the outside, didn't really get into the brawls that he normally does, didn't throw a lot of the 1-2s down the pipe that he's normally known for, the thing that put out Buckley, for those of you who are not aware of how he throws his 1-2s. But all things considered, a terrible decision to fight, but he made the adjustments that were necessary. And in that third round, that left hook, man, that left hook was right on the button, and it really doesn't get any cleaner than that. So we can criticize him. It obviously, had it gone the other way, we'd be talking maybe a different tune about his decision to fight that fight. Sounds like his mother was not too pleased with his decision to fight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it worked out for him, man, and good on him. Another W on his performance, another good name on the resume, and it's just another move up for Kelvin Holland, man. It sucks for Pons, though. Pons is having a rough time trying to come back and have another run out here.
Yeah.
Where do we think Kelvin Holland goes from here, Mark?
So I could see people thinking this is too aggressive. You might too. I know Holland still is not even ranked. How about Jeff Neal? He's coming off a loss. It's an interesting opponent. And Kelvin Holland took Khamzat Chimaev on short notice. He saved that card. He could have beat Wonderboy if he fought a different fight, but he was determined to put on a show for the fans. He gets a win here. I don't hate giving him another big opportunity. I say Jeff Neal.
For context, he's asking for Michael Chiesa. Now, the Chiesa was shafted from his Li Jingliang fight. They didn't find a replacement fight for him. Chiesa is kind of in the limbo area here. But Kelvin Holland said that he'd be down for a fight with Michael Chiesa. Says that it's probably a great fight for him to take with one hand, which seems a little greedy.
I'm surprised he asked for a wrestler.
It's a good fight, though, man. I think that's a very, very good fight.
Yeah.
And like you said, definitely somebody who's a little bit up in the rankings. Chiesa needs a good fight back with a good name, put some eyes on. If he beats Kelvin Holland, that's a great win for Chiesa, especially on a comeback. So I'm down. Give me all that.
Like it.
All right. What about Pons, man? Where does poor Pons go from here?
I think Pons, barring if he strings some run together, I think he kind of assumes the veteran gatekeeper role at this point. I will say one of either Randy Brown or Phil Rowe.
Damn. This dude just got booked for something. Fuck. We'll go with yours. I was going to say Ian Gary, but I know Ian Gary just got booked for something.
Yeah, who'd he get?
I can't remember for the
D-Rod?
who it was.
Was it D-Rod?
Is it D-Rod? Oh, it's a better fight anyway.
Yeah, D-Rod. Yep.
Yeah, it's a better fight. Anyway. All right. What is next
we
here?
We got one more recap, right?
The boy. Yes, sir. The boy, Kelvin Gastelum, coming back with a performance I'm still having trouble fathoming. Like, where has this Kelvin been? Because Jesus Christ. But the Kelvin Gastelum here with a unanimous decision over the always tough Chris Curtis. Again, where has this man been? Injury after injury, fight getting pulled, teeth getting knocked out, staph infection bursting from his face, and he comes into this fight and looks like an absolute athletic monster. Movement on point, power on point, combos on point, chin on point. Chris Curtis had a problem with the headbutt, which I will concede was probably a big deal with as close as that fight was, especially with the sequence that preceded the headbutt. But man, all in all, I still thought even without the headbutt, Kelvin Gastelum won that fight. He just felt like the rightful winner there. I had him winning, I want to say it was 2 and 3. And one I thought was very close. But honestly, man, I think you could edge one for Kelvin if you wanted to as well. So I thought it was a very, very great, very sick fight. Performance of the, or fight of the night for sure. Chris Curtis went on all kinds of a bitch fit in the last 48 hours as a result of this loss. He had a thing with Ariel that I haven't watched yet, but I'm kind of interested to see what he's saying. But he blocked a ton of people on Twitter. People on Twitter.
He doesn't do well with losing. If you remember the Hermanson loss, he really is a bitter loser.
Yeah. He said he's going to appeal the fight. Good luck, because appealing a fight is probably the hardest thing to do in this entire combat industry. Doesn't happen. Overturning decisions like that doesn't happen, especially if it doesn't involve some kind of performance-enhancing drug or something along those lines, or a complete fuck up from a ref or something wild. For the record, John Jones still has a loss on his record because no one's overturning that ridiculous decision. So that's how crazy that is.
Yes.
How do you feel, man? How do you feel about the Kelvin Gastelum performance?
I mean, that man looked like Kelvin Gastelum. He sounded like Diego Sanchez in the post fight, but he looked like Kelvin Gastelum, the guy that we know. So that was awesome to see him come back that way. And yeah, as much as Chris Curtis wants to complain on Twitter and argue with fans, he didn't win the fight. He just didn't. Like, yes, he won round 3. He came on strong at the end. And I understand there was a headbutt that drastically changed round 2. But it happened, and it wasn't called, and we have to score the fight based on what happened. So we don't get to then ignore everything that Kelvin did just because there was a headbutt. Like, we have to score on what happened. And what happened was that Kelvin jumped on Chris and landed about 10 shots, and they were huge in that round. So, yes, it does suck, 100%. I feel bad for Chris Curtis in that regard. But for him to continue saying that the fight should have been scored for him anyway, that he won rounds 2 and 3, is just silly to me. He didn't. He lost round 2 and won. So Gastelum won the fight. They both look good. They went to war just like we thought they would. Chris Curtis is slick as hell in the pocket. He always is. He had some great moments. But Kelvin Gastelum was back. He landed with power. He had some beautiful big 1-2s. He was the faster man. He leaned on it, and he did enough to get the nod. So a great fight and a much, much needed win for Kelvin Gastelum.
Dude, you could see the relief on that kid's face at the end.
Oh God, yeah.
When they were announcing his name and all that stuff, you could see the relief on his face.
Yep.
The one thing that keeps getting me crazy about Kelvin Gastelum is his trans Brazilian personality. His, like, I don't know if you noticed, but even when after he won, and I think they were like, I don't know if it happened as soon as he won or when they were talking to him or announcing his name, but like he did like the Edson Barboza where he was like, nice. I am nothing. Jesus Christ. He is the number one. Like he was doing like the, I don't know. I've only ever seen Brazilians do that shit. And I've never seen Kelvin do it. And like, he's going full Mackenzie Dern on me, but the opposite direction.
His coach was Cordero for a long time. So maybe a lot of influence.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Because as soon as he started training with them, he started doing like the hand thing that Shogun does. Kelvin Gastelum went full Brazilian on us in the last decade, bro. Shit is wild. Yeah, I thought it was a great performance, man. What about Chris Curtis? Where do we think Chris Curtis goes from here?
So we didn't do Kelvin yet, just so you know.
Let's do Curtis first, and then we'll go Kelvin.
All right.
We'll go Gastelum.
I am gonna say it's a setback here for Curtis. So I'm going to say the winner of Edmund Shabazian and Anthony Hernandez. That's a fun fight coming up. I do think whoever wins that fight deserves a big fight, and I think Chris Curtis makes a lot of sense.
Oh, shit, I like that. I didn't even think about that. I like that a lot. Yeah. Fluffy, man. That dude, can I call him a dark horse? Would that be apropos to say he's the dark horse in the division?
Yes.
I think Fluffy's is going to have a good year, man. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I like him. I do.
Let's see. All right, so what about Gastelum? Where do we think Gastelum is going from here? Just for context, Kelvin Gastelum has entered the fray here at number 11 in the middleweight division on the official UFC rankings. I don't know. I'm assuming he's either 11 or 12 on yours. Is it Priaulx Rankings?
I don't even have it open. I'm terribly, terribly unprepared.
He
is. Nope, he's not a welterweight. Let's go to middleweight. He's number 11.
Well, there you go. You and the UFC. That's probably one of the few things you have in common right now.
I think the most likely scenario might be that they go right back to the Nasruddin Imavov booking. I know they kind of like that matchup, but I kind of like the idea of going with Sean Strickland. I think Gastelum and Sean Strickland would be a real fun fight.
I 100% agree. The Imavov fight gives me zero interest at this point. I've moved on. We've gotten his return fight. Because the whole thing was Imavov was welcoming him back.
Yeah.
He's been welcomed. You lost it. You're done. Let's move on to things that are more important. Kelvin doesn't need that kind of negativity going to something that, at this point, something that's not even going to really move him up the ladder all too much. Yeah. So I think we give him the Sean Strickland fight. That's definitely one to go with. Honestly, dude, if you're not going to give Duplessis Adesanya right away, he could tangle with Duplessis as well. I think it's dangerous from a business perspective to put him in that position and potentially fuck up what could be your very next championship fight. But from a skill-on-skill perspective and
it'd be a fun
good
matchup.
Fight perspective, it's a great matchup.
I don't know if I could see Duplessis saying okay to that, but it'd be fun.
Especially because I think he's like right there, bro. Like he just talks 1-2 more things at Adesanya, and it might.
Oh, if I'm him, I'm
really
talking as much
himself.
as I can right now. Because the more that it's in the media, the more that fight's going to get booked.
Yep. Yeah, he might literally talk himself into a title fight. Legit. Yep. All right, man. I think that's all we have for these breakdowns. The rest of these fights from this card, we are going to throw into our lightning round. Okay.
Let's try to do a true lightning round here because we have been taking our time and we have a lot to do. Let's go for a true lightning round.
All right, let's do it. First on the list, Christian Rodriguez, unanimous decision over the wrecked train that is Raul Rosas Jr. Go.
I mean, I picked Rosas Jr., but I'm honestly not surprised. Like, even right before the fight, I'm sitting there like, man, Rodriguez is pretty good. Like, I hope Rosas is as good as he says he is. And I'll tell you what, cardio's a bitch because, he looked good for 5 minutes, but that cardio went out the window, and it was all downhill from there. So Christian Rodriguez had a really smart, well-rounded performance, got himself a win on a pay-per-view main card, which is huge. And Raul Rosas Jr. can finally pump the brakes on saying that he could already beat the champions of multiple divisions.
100%. Raul, I think he got what we call a reality check. I think the nerves got to him. I think he finally understands the level that he's at. I think if you also watch that fight, Christian Rodriguez showed a sense of calm through 15 minutes, even when in bad positions, where Raul Rosas Jr. was literally panicking for over 10 minutes of that fight. There's levels to this shit. There are young kids who can rise to these occasions, and there are the prodigies of this sport. And Raul Rosas Jr. might be very good, but he's not a John Jones. He's not, you know what I mean? He's got a ways to go. And hopefully he can make the right adjustments and grow from there. He's very, very young. And he is very good. So I do expect big things from him in the future. Next on the list, Luana Pinheiro, split decision over Michelle Waterson Gomez. Go, Mark.
So I was mad live. I really thought Waterson won the fight live. I loved the way she fought. Thought she was super aggressive, willing to trade, willing to, deal with the power that Pinheiro brings. I thought she fought a great fight. And I still think she won the overall fight because rounds 1 and 2 were a total toss-up, and Waterson absolutely won round 3. So pride scoring, Waterson won that fight. But I got to admit, when I rewatched it, I get how it could go Pinheiro's way. I think 1 and 2 were both razor-close rounds. I can't hate on it if you want to score them both for her. I thought in both of them, she had a huge final 5 seconds to arguably steal both rounds in the final 5 seconds, which is crazy that a combined 10 seconds is what may have won her that fight. But she fought well. She fought tough. She's good, and she eked it out. So big win for Pinheiro.
Yeah, I agree. I had Waterson Gomez winning that fight 2-1. I did not rewatch the fight, but I will provide a little context here on MMA decisions. 63.5% of people scored round 1 for Waterson Gomez. 36.5% of people scored round 1 for Pinheiro. The exact same statistics reversed are round 2. So 63.5% for round 2 is to Pinheiro, 36.5% to Waterson Gomez, and Waterson Gomez winning round 3 without any dispute whatsoever at almost 95%. So all in all, seems like a lot of people had Waterson Gomez winning that fight. It seems like a lot of media had Waterson Gomez winning that fight. So
yeah, I did too, for what it's worth. I don't know if I said that. I had 1 and 3.
You did.
If I had to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a close fight. I think, I don't know if robbery is really the right word for it, but I feel for Michelle Waterson because I do think she won that fight. Joe Pyfer, round 1 TKO over Gerald Mearshot. Omar, go first.
I knew you were going to let yourself go first because I know what you want to say.
That's right. Fucking lucky I left my aluminum foil downstairs. I was ready to fucking put a hat on and everything. If you watch this fight, there's no way you didn't watch this fight and go, who did this? Who set this up here? Who's trying to pull the wool over my eyes here? Because Gerald Mearshart made that finish as sketchy as humanly possible. Like, it looked like he either gave up or threw the fight or something. Maybe he was hurt way more than we give him credit for, and he just looked more aware than he was. But whatever the reasoning for the performance, the worst thing that could probably happen there, because it looked like that was a choice that he had made and not a result of a shot, I guess. I don't know. I didn't like it at all. Good on Joe Pyfer, but it did not leave a great taste in my mouth.
Yeah. I mean, you said it, and then I hadn't watched it yet. I missed this fight live, and I watched it, and I was like, yep. So the same exact thing. I mean, first off, great job by Joe Pyfer. Mearshart, as we know, is a very tricky opponent, and Pyfer did a really nice job of kind of stepping in and out of range. He would press forward, look for openings, stay safe when GM3 came in, and really get out of range. And, of course, he's got big power, and he found an opening, but I don't know what the fuck that finish was. Like, GM3 didn't even try. Like, the only thing I could think is if it was just one of those weird ones where he was, like, way more hurt than he looked like he was. But that shit looked sketchy as fuck. And I don't know what I watched in the end of that fight.
Yeah. Lupita Godinez split decision over Cynthia Calvillo. Mark, go first.
This was a really close fight throughout. Gun to my head, I do score it for Loopy. They looked like they had both been in a war, if you looked at their faces, but I really feel like either girl could have done more and taken that thing. I kept waiting for someone to, like, step up, I guess is what I want to say. It felt like it was there to be taken, and they kind of just, I don't know, I felt like someone could have really grabbed that fight. I thought at least one of them would press the wrestling more than they did. They didn't. They were content to stand and trade, so like I said, I scored it for Loopy. Good win for her. She's kind of steadily working her way up here. But in the end, it's another disappointment for Calvillo.
And officially, Cynthia Calvillo has been removed from the UFC roster. So, RIP. For a little bit of context, I know we're in the lightning round, but just to give you a little bit of context here, MMA Decisions has Lupi Godinez winning that fight 35.8%. 32.8% believe that Calvillo beat Godinez. They gave rounds 1 and 2 to Godinez, pretty high percentage, and then about just under 60% of folks believe that Calvillo won round 3. As far as the MMA media is concerned, it looks like about 90% of people believe that Lupi Godinez won that fight. Only less than a handful of people.
Your math is a little sketch.
What do you mean?
It's 60% said Godinez won the fight. And 38
because you're adding the other one, the 30-27s and the 29-28. Yeah, I didn't add those two together.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying, you said 30-something and 30-something. I was like, wait a minute.
Where's the rest of that?
But yes, most people on Godinez, yes.
Yeah. All right. Next on the list, Ignacio Bahamondes, unanimous decision over Trey Ogden. Marco first.
They kickboxed all fight long. I kept waiting for Ogden to press the wrestling, as I thought that would be the route. And he didn't. And he was very much one shot at a time, whereas Ignacio was more fluid and the more reactive striker. And he won the majority of the exchanges. He started to pick Ogden apart, add up the damage. He controlled the fight and got himself a nice win returning from injuries.
Yeah. Bahamondes looked great. I thought his striking was pretty crisp. He's so lengthy, and the way that he uses his range and has range management is really sick to see. I will also say that is probably one of the most emotional entrances I have seen to the octagon in quite some time. This man.
Oh, I skipped it. What was it?
He was just having a full breakdown.
Really?
Walking to the octagon. Yeah, I guess the injuries and stuff, and him finally coming back and getting in there and stuff like that. It seemed like it was an emotional experience for him. So glad he won that fight, because he might have looked a little choo-choo by the end of that had he not won. So. Steve Garcia next on the list. Steve Garcia, round 2 KO over Shailen Nuranbeki. Omar, go first. Nuranbeki made a lot of terrible fucking decisions in that fight. Is it Becky or Beke?
Nuranbeki, I believe. Becca? Nuranbeka? Shailen Nuranbeka.
Shailen.
Nuranbeka, I think it was. I can't remember now.
Yeah, no, can't remember it. He was doing well, man. First of all, that dude's got skills up the ass. That dude is a very, very talented man, but the fight IQ is really where he suffered. He had Steve Garcia all kinds of fucked up in the first round. I mean, Garcia didn't know what was left, what was right, where his corner was. He didn't know what was going on. And Shailen decides to try to take him down and do the one thing that gives Garcia chances to recover, and recover Garcia did. And Garcia came back to beat the living shit out of Nuranbeki for the next round, 2.5 rounds, basically. It was the craziest turnaround, the craziest comeback, I guess the round and a half. The craziest comeback I think I've ever seen. Garcia should have been out. Garcia should have been done in that first round. And the choices that Nuranbeki made in that fight cost him the fight. So good on Steve Garcia for having the chin that he had, the wherewithal to come back, the toughness to come back, the mental fortitude to push through that ass beating that was round 1. And hopefully Nuranbeki can make some better decisions, look back at that fight, make the adjustments going forward, and kind of recognize moments like that he needed to just let Steve Garcia up and just work Steve Garcia some more. Hopefully that kind of performance never happens again, because that was a fight he gave away.
Yeah, it looked like he had Steve Garcia's body shut off when that first right hand landed early in the fight. Like you said, he didn't know which way was what, and what a recovery from him. But even when he survived it, from that point on in the round, Nuranbeki was looking really powerful, really overwhelming. Like, it was all going well. And then Garcia gets up with like 40 seconds left in round 1 and goes right at Nuranbeki and nearly drops him with a combo like late in the round. Comes out fucking firing in round 2, and the man just throws kill shots. I mean, everything he was throwing was a kill shot. And one big one to the body puts him down, and that was that. So Steve Garcia, pretty damn impressive victory.
Dude, so it was 2 to the body. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a knee.
The kick first.
So
it was toes.
Oh, it was his toes. You're right. So his toes landed in one spot, and he threw that body shot in the same exact spot, and it shut Nuranbeki off completely. Yep. It's beautiful. I mean, it was the accuracy was great.
Yep.
Last on our list here, Sam Hughes with the underdog unanimous decision over Jacqueline Amorim. Mark, go first.
So Jacqueline Amorim looked as advertised in round one.
In round one.
I'm a bit surprised that someone of her jiu-jitsu caliber couldn't finish those chokes, because she had a couple chokes that looked deep as fuck. But Sam Hughes is tough as shit. She was ripping arms off with everything she had, and she managed to stay in it, and it paid off because Amorim had exactly 5 minutes of cardio and not 1 second more. So I'm sure she's talented, but she's got a lot of work to do if she's going to realize that talent in the UFC, because you got to be able to push for longer than that, and Sam Hughes could, and she gets a great gutty win.
Yep. And it turns out Sam Hughes' boyfriend bet on her. Sam Hughes was a plus 400 underdog, so Sam Hughes' boyfriend apparently got pizzed that night.
And is Sam Hughes going to get in trouble because didn't they pass a rule that you're not allowed to do that anymore?
It's true. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
right?
know.
It said no fighters, camps, or families, didn't it?
Did it say families? I don't remember families.
I'm pretty sure it did, dude. Family members, I think it said. She should not have added herself.
She better not be married. If it's a boyfriend, maybe you can get away with it legally. Oh, shit. I didn't even think about that. Amorim looked good, man. I was really, without knowing what the decision was going to be and kind of how the fight was going to go, I was really impressed with her in the first round. I thought her talent and her skill was really evident. And then round two came, and she looked like she had never thrown a punch in her life. Like, the gas was absolutely gone, and it was tough to watch because you kind of knew that she had almost no defense at that point. She was just trying to move around, trying to stay alive, and she was basically surviving for 2 rounds, and gave Sam Hughes every opportunity to win that fight, come in and just grind her out for the next 2 rounds. Good comeback from Sam Hughes because she definitely got worked in that first round, and hopefully Amorim can fix up that cardio and put on a performance for a proper 15 minutes, because I guarantee you that won't be the last time she goes 3 rounds with somebody, if not more. So. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the lightning round. On to our next segment here with our Senor Priaulx and his Priaulx rankings. Mark, let us know who rose and who took a complete shit.
So it's a very positive week. There are no real notable fallers to speak of. It is just 4 risers this week. We will work our way up from the bottom of the card. The first one, the boy we just spoke about, Steve Garcia, gets himself a quality win. He moves from number 56 to number 47 in my featherweight rankings. Next one, which is the biggest move of the week, Joe Pyfer moves from number 51 to number 29 at middleweight.
Oh,
so 22 spot move for him. He beats Gerald Mearshart in what was a big step up, and he did it in style. So he flies up the ranks. Next one up the card, Luana Pinheiro. She gets a quality win over Michelle Waterson. She moves from number 15 to number 10 in my women's strawweight rankings.
Wow.
And then the last one, just creeping his way up there. He's going to be ranked one day. Kevin Holland goes from number 22 to number 17 in my welterweight rankings. We're getting close. And that is it for the week.
Love it. All right. It is time here for the MMA Sphere. I'm going to give you guys a little rundown of a couple of different stories, some fight announcements, and then we will be moving on to this upcoming weekend's para fights cards. The biggest news that came out in the last couple of hours here, Jake Paul back in the media here fighting our UFC vet Nate Diaz. They will be competing in a boxing match on August 5th at American Airlines Center in Dallas. This will be a 185-pound boxing fight, contracted for 8 rounds with 10-ounce gloves. It'll be a pay-per-view fight distributed globally by DAZN. I gotta say, I really like that fight. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, oh yeah, fuck yeah.
That's
we've been
scary.
hoping for that one. When Nate left the UFC, that was why he left. We knew that. He was trying to get it. Glad it's happening.
I agree. In line with the Diaz brothers, Nick Diaz did come out with a couple of statements regarding his last fight against Robbie Lawler, saying that he felt that he was backed into a corner, didn't really want to go in there to win. Apparently he went into training camp, got backed into it, was in between management, didn't really have a team to work with, went back and forth with a bunch of different people, a bunch of different training camps and partners. Couldn't continue to amount to his level of the athleticism that he needs to compete. He knew that, and so I think he knew his mindset going into that fight was, I'm about to get my ass kicked, because I think he knew he was ill prepared for that fight. I really thought that man would be in a better headspace, I thought, at this point in his life. I think, Mark, you said he didn't look like that at all when we approached that point. Way back when at this point, but I don't know, man. There doesn't really seem to be any reason for that man not to have his shit together. So I kind of hope he gets his shit together.
I agree. It's a little random.
Yeah. All right. Just have a few fight announcements. Kind of a slow week with Adesanya and 287 taking on most of the news cycle. So Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena 3 has been announced officially. They will be headlining UFC 289 on June 10th. Along with that fight, Hakeem Dawodu versus Lucas Almeida has also been added to that same card. Amanda Hebos versus Macy Barber has been added to UFC's June 24th event. Bo Nickel versus Tresean Gore, the runner-up to the most recent TUF season, was added to UFC's 290 card on July 8th for International Fight Week. Along with that, Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez for the title unification bout for the featherweight division is in the works for UFC 290. And a flyweight title fight between Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja has also been set for UFC 290 on International Fight Week. That card is shaping up to be quite a banger. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is actually all we have for you this week. All right, let's jump right into our next segment here. PFL 3, their 2023 regular season. We're going to hand this one over to Mark, who is deep in the PFL guts, and get to it. Yeah, that was graphic. Let's get to it, Mark. PFL 3. Go for it. Let us know about these fights that are coming up this weekend, and we will get into more detail on our main event.
All right, so this one is very deep for a PFL card, not necessarily in terms of like star power, but in terms of quality fights of guys who you've seen do well in prior seasons, that type of deal. So I'm going to run through like actually 7-8 fights here just very quickly to tell you what's up, and then we will do the main event as a true preview. One oddity to note is the scheduling of this card. It's almost like they chose to break this thing up into two cards, kind of. I guess it's because they got an early time slot on actual ESPN. The whole card's on ESPN Plus, but they're only on actual ESPN at 7 o'clock. So they have taken the quote-unquote main card, put that at 7 o'clock, headlined by Aubin-Mercier and Burgos, which is the name of this event. And then after those 5 fights, there will be, I think it's like 7 more fights that are the quote-unquote post-limbs, but they've kind of stacked it in a way where then that one ends with Sadabusi, who was obviously last year's welterweight champion. So it's almost like an undercard to a main event and then another undercard to a main event type of deal. And I guess the one they felt was biggest was OAM and Burgos, and that's the one they have on Real Deal ESPN. So a little bit odd, but I'll work through quickly here, and we'll start on those post-limbs. I'll skip a few. There's like 3 fights that are a bit lower level. But you have Hausch Manfio fighting Alex Martinez at lightweight. Martinez is a guy who has continually gotten some surprising wins in the PFL. He'll surprise me again here if he gets one. He is the betting favorite, but I don't know. I'm a Manfio believer. He's won 5 of his last 6. He was the 2021 champ. His only loss in this run has been to OAM. I think he's the better fighter here, but we'll see in that one. You have Natan Schultz returning to the mix in the PFL. He's fighting Stevie Ray, who was a finalist last year. That one's a tough call. I kind of think I'm going to roll with Schultz there. He has not lost in like 14 fights, aside from a random loss to Marcin Held and a really close split decision to OAM. And I think Stevie Ray maybe impressed us by beating Pettis twice, but it might have just been a very winnable matchup for him for whatever reasons. So I'm leaning Schultz in that one. I guess I should be giving predictions here. I might as well. I'll say Manfield UD, Schultz UD thus far. Then you have Magomed Karamov fighting Ben Egley, so he's just going to eat someone. I'm not sure what the logic was on this matchup. Give me Magomed to walk through him. I'll say round 2 TKO. And then you get to the quote-unquote main event of these post-lims, which is Sadabusi, last year's welterweight champ. He is fighting Jarrah Al-Silawi. Huge reach advantage for C, as he has a lot. It's 8 inches here. Al-Silawi has shown some signs. He beat Gleison Tibau, which is solid, but then he got KO'd by Umalatov right after. I think C can probably handle this challenge, probably dictate the range, pick him apart like he seems to do to most people lately. So not a terribly exciting UD would be my pick for C. And then we get to the fights that are actually on ESPN. So the first one there is Magomed Umalatov, who I just mentioned. He's fighting Delano Taylor. Umalatov was supposed to fight Rory last year. You may remember he had some visa issues, lost his chance at the playoffs, and Delano Taylor was the man who actually stepped in instead and beat Rory. So now they will fight each other here. I was impressed with Taylor at times last season, but I think Umalatov is probably just better. He's undefeated at this point. Dangerous, heavy-handed dude. I think he can catch Taylor at some point. I'll say round 3 TKO would be my pick there. Next one up, Carlos Leal versus David Zawada. Zawada is a UFC vet. He was only 1-4 in his UFC run, but he did beat Abubakar Nurmagomedov, which I guess is pretty solid. Other guys have not been able to do that. But if Carlos Leal is close to the guy that beat Ray Cooper, as weird as Ray Cooper was in that fight, I think he should be able to keep this standing and probably outstrike Zawada. So I'll say Leal UD would be my pick in that one. Then we get to the heavyweights. Denis Goltsov is fighting Patrick Brady. Patrick Brady's only 5-0 at the age of 39, so I guess he started his MMA career very late. I can't say I'm super familiar with him. My guess is he's badly outmatched here. Goltsov is very solid. I'll say he walks through him, round 1 TKO. I think this might be another gimme, kind of like the Magomed Karamov fight. Co-main, the boy Clay Collard. He is fighting Yamato Nishikawa. You might remember Nishikawa was the guy that was supposed to fight in the UFC. He was supposed to debut, and then it came out that he actually was still under contract with a different promotion. I forget which promotion that was. So he couldn't actually sign the UFC contract. This was like maybe 6 months back. But whatever it was, he figured it out. Now he's in the PFL. He has a huge record already. It's like almost 30 fights for a 20-year-old fighter. So a lot of experience. He definitely has some buzz on him, but Clay Collard's a tricky dude, and Nishikawa likes to strike. Collard can play that game all day. I'm going to go Collard UD. And we've arrived at the main event, so I will tag in Omar here. And we have Olivier Aubin-Mercier, the 2022 lightweight champion of the PFL, taking on Shane Burgos, UFC vet. Obviously was a featherweight in his run there. He's going to move up a weight class, partake in the lightweight regular season here in the PFL. And Omar, let's start it with you.
I love this fight. I am extremely excited for this fight. I've been excited to watch Shane Burgos come back, especially since he got announced at the PFL last year. Was scheduled to fight Marlon Moraes at 145. That didn't happen.
Thank God that didn't happen. I forgot about that stupidity.
For a lot of different reasons. But I think one of the greatest things that's come out of this has been Shane Burgos' move up now to 155. And he spoke to Ariel about why that was and why he's not fighting 145. And he was very honest talking about how the weight cut is killer at 145. It takes a lot out of him. And in this format of tournament style where you need to continuously fight every few months and make weight every few months, he said it just wasn't sustainable. There was no way he was going to continue to make 145 on that kind of regular basis. So he moved up to 155, and he says he's felt the best he's ever felt. He doesn't feel like he's, dead and dying and having to do all this to cut and make weight. He says it's very natural now. He's got a nutritionist that's making everything a lot easier for him. And I got to be honest, man, a Burgos that potentially is faster, stronger, more responsive, I think that's a dangerous combination. OAM is an absolute monster. Definitely the grappler that you don't want to get caught underneath. He's even apparently now shown that he can knock a bitch out. OAM is no slouch by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been a Burgos fan since the UFC. Burgos has had some amazing performances, and if we were to take potentially a grain of salt that Shane Burgos was a fraction of what he could be had he not been depleting his body, and then that takes into consideration the good and the bad performances that he's had in the UFC, I think the potential for Shane Burgos is even greater than what it was at 145. So give me Shane Burgos, man. Give me Shane Burgos in this 5-round fight. Decision. I take him.
Sorry, I'm inputting odds for the UFC that I never wrote down. Yeah, I too love this fight, and I'm so fucking torn on who I want to take. The betting odds are the same exact way. OAM, they're both minus money. OAM is minus 120. Shane Burgos is minus 110. So you're basically looking at a pick'em fight.
Yeah.
You want to say, like, wow, Shane Burgos is coming up from featherweight. I wonder if there'll be a size difference. And there will, in favor of Shane Burgos. He's 2 inches taller than OAM, and he has a 5-inch reach advantage. So Shane Burgos is a long dude. He's going to be just fine here. I mean, maybe the strength ends up being a factor. OAM is obviously a very strong lightweight, so we'll see how that aspect of it goes. But I'm struggling because I like OAM a lot. I really like his game. Have been, since he came to the PFL, I've been saying he would be the champ in the PFL. He was. I kind of feel like Shane Burgos does have the right kind of game to throw OAM off his game, though. Burgos is not afraid to take damage. He will not stop. He won't be mentally beaten if things aren't going his way. He can scramble. He carries danger all fight long. Even if he lands one, it could change the fight. And OAM is a guy who wants to control the fight, and he wants to fight it the way he wants. And Shane Burgos is going to do everything he can to prevent that. So the question to me just kind of comes down to how good is OAM? Like, is he good enough to do it anyway? Can he stay out of a firefight? Can he win on points? Can he get timely takedowns and control Burgos enough to not get clipped and not get hurt? And like Omar said, you can't look past OAM in terms of danger he presents. Obviously, he had a huge fucking knockout to win the PFL title last year of Stevie Ray. But I don't think he's finishing Shane Burgos like that. So I think if anyone gets a finish, it's the other way most likely in this fight. I'm torn. I'm real freaking torn. If it was a 5-rounder, I think I might be more inclined to say that Burgos finds an opening at some point. Just in 25 minutes is such a long time. I kind of think in 3 rounds, OAM might be able to stay safe enough and win 2 of these rounds. It feels wrong because there's only 3 dudes in the UFC who beat Burgos, which were Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett, and Edson Barboza, who are all fucking studs. But I don't know. I keep playing this fight out in my head, and I kind of think OAM might have like a round that clearly does not go his way, but win 2 others. Like maybe it's even the first 2, and then Burgos rallies late, but he can't finish. That kind of thing. Could even be a split. I'm actually going to say split. I'm going to say OAM split decision.
Okay. I don't know if they've had stare downs yet or not. I feel like they would have, right? Oh no, today is Thursday now. Midnight Thursday. So
yeah, it wouldn't have happened. Tomorrow it would happen, I guess, right? Yeah.
Right. Because I don't know if you've seen pictures of Shane Burgos lately, but he's in the middle of a weight cut right now. He looks fantastic for being in the middle of a weight cut, number one. And number two, if you look at pictures of him back in January, he's fucking massive. Like he's wide, dude, and his arms are massive. And I wouldn't be surprised if OAM has a really hard time out-strengthening Shane Burgos. Again, I think this move to 155 might be a more positive move than we've anticipated. I don't think the size difference, from what you would expect a 145 or to 155 pounder, I don't think he loses anything. I think if anything, I think he doesn't kill himself, and I think he gets a lot of it back. So
that's very interesting.
I
reserve the right. I reserve the right to change my pick when I see the weigh-ins and the face-offs. If I change
I
it,
see them next to each other
below this YouTube video and let you know that I have changed it.
It's going to be so interesting, man, because if OAM isn't thicker than Shane Burgos, that's a rough night for OAM, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, agree.
All right. That is all the PFL talk that we are going to go with tonight. Mark, do you have anything else before we move on?
That's it, man. I tried to get through all those pretty fast. I did a decent job, huh?
No, I thought that was great. You also mentioned that the PFL schedule is nonsense. So good on you. Well done. All right. Let us get to the events of the hour. The UFC Fight Night Holloway versus Allen card coming up this weekend on April 15th in a couple days. Before we get into this card, actually, because we are going to preview about 6 fights on this card, let us get into some other fights that we want to highlight quickly, just to give you guys a little taste of what else is on this card. Mark, tell us what you have to tell the peoples.
All right, so we're going to do our version of the main card for you guys, which is basically the whole main card, but we're swapping out Clay Guida and Rafa Garcia for Brandon Royval and Matheus Nicolau because it makes zero fucking sense that Royval and Nicolau are not on this main card. So that's what we're going to do. So I guess a fight to note is Clay Guida and Rafa Garcia. That should be a solid fight to open the main card. We're not going to give you a full preview of that one. The other one I'll mention is Jillian Robertson making the move down to women's strawweight. I find that interesting. Someone with her ability to take damage at 125, going down to 115 now, where she may be able to absorb strikes even better. And someone with her grappling and ability to dominate on the mat, now doing it against smaller girls who she conceivably would have more of a strength advantage over. I think it's an interesting move. She's fighting Pierre Rodriguez. I'm really interested to see how that goes. I could end up being totally, sometimes people cut weight and it just doesn't work out and you realize they shouldn't be there. But I'm interested to see how she looks. So that would be my one to highlight.
Yeah, I'd agree, man. Especially when it comes to women, 10 pounds, first of all, for a girl who's already pretty small, another 10 pounds that you're going to rake off and still expect to perform at the highest level, that's a tall order. I am interested to see if that works out for her, especially because her style is so grindy and pace forward and pace heavy that
that's for sure.
I wonder if the cardio suffers because of the weight cut, but I guess we'll see. Also, for those of you who might be saying to yourselves, Brandon Royval and Matheus Nicolau on the prelims, well, they must be headlining the prelims, obviously. No, they're not.
Are they not? I thought they were. Jeez.
Bill Algeo and TJ Brown are headlining the prelims.
Yeah.
So
baffling.
That's what's happening there. And no shade to Bill Algeo or TJ Brown for that matter. But but Brandon Royval, I think at this point, especially considering how he's ranked and all of these things.
To me, that flyweight fight is the third or fourth best fight on this card, depending if you like it more than Munhoz Gutierrez.
And potentially a number one contender fight, depending on how that division shakes up. Brandon Royval and Matheus Nicolau are like right there. So weird flex from the UFC. But did you say Bill Algeo and TJ Brown? Did you bring them up?
Nope.
That is definitely one that I think you should watch. Bill Algeo should always be watched. That kid's a monster. I don't. The kid's got a screw loose in the best way, so definitely watch out for him.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump right into it then. Let us start with the infamous fight that is not getting the love it is deserved on the spot on the card. Brandon Royval versus Matheus Nicolau. Brandon, let's see if we can pull a mic here. Brandon the Raw Dog Royval, 14 wins, 6 losses, 30 years old, so we won't give him that much shit. 3 KOs, 9 submissions, 2 decisions. Last fight against Matt Schnell, which was a maddening fight, ends up winning by submission via guillotine choke in the first round at 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Matheus Nicolau from Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais, Brazil. Maybe 80% of that was right. Maybe 75%. I'm not really sure. He has a record of 19 wins and 2 losses with 5 KOs, 5 submissions, and 9 decisions with 1 draw thrown in there in the mix. Fighting out of Nova União, he also has a recent win against Matt Schnell, Jesus Christ, with KO win, round 2 at 1 minute and 44 seconds. Mark, tell us how this matchup goes and who we see winning this fight.
All right. Nicolau is a more than 2-1 favorite. He is minus 215. Brandon Royval is plus 170. As usual, Royval is the taller, longer fighter. He'll have 3 inches of height and a 4.5-inch reach advantage on Nicolau. I think this matches up really well for Nicolau. Brandon Royval is a very wild fighter. It works for him a lot of the time. I don't think it's going to work for him here. Matheus Nicolau is so patient. He's so good at staying safe, at avoiding situations where he can be caught or controlled. He's so good at finding his moments. I think he's probably licking his chops fighting a guy with the style of a Brandon Royval. He hasn't been a big finisher in the UFC, but I kind of think he can find one here. I think Royval just presents a lot of opportunities, and for a guy who fights the way that Nicolau does, I think he finds one here just because of the openness of Royval at times. I will say Matheus Nicolau, round 2, knockout.
I like it. I also think this is kind of a tailor-made stylistic matchup for Nicolau. Like you kind of alluded to, Royval is a very wild fighter, very scrambly fighter. I wouldn't even say a grindy fighter. I don't think that's accurate, but a guy who is not afraid to spam the controller, if you will, and get a little wild in there. Matheus Nicolau, though, on the other hand, is a very patient, very technical fighter. Not really doing anything unless it has a purpose to it. Allows other people to sort of burn their energy off while he stays efficient, and then kind of explodes when he needs to, and does things when he has the opportunity to actually present damage and some sort of attack, as opposed to Royval, who kind of likes to play the volume and the forward pressure game and kind of hope eventually something lands clean, but is consistently active to try and keep somebody else off their game. I do think Nicolau will be a little bit too good for Brandon in this one. I would not be surprised, however, if Brandon were to catch a neck in there somewhere or another. He is very, very good and very opportunistic when it comes to his submissions. But I do think it's a tall order for Brandon at this point, and I will go with Matheus Nicolau. I think I'm going to go with him by decision. I don't think he ends up getting the finish, but I think in Brandon's attempts to end up in a dominant position, his recklessness is going to leave him in bad positions almost constantly. And I think it's going to add up, and eventually we will reach a point in the fight where it's gone on for too long, and Matheus Nicolau wins a unanimous decision.
Like it.
All right, next on the list, Pedro Munhoz versus Chris Gutierrez. Pedro, the young Punisher Munhoz, fighting out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. 19 wins, 7 losses, 5 wins by KO, 8 wins by submission and 6 by decision. His most recent fight was the no contest to Sean O'Malley that ended up in an eye poke. The famous gif of O'Malley kind of doing a spin and a ta-da in a mocking manner towards Pedro Munhoz, for those of you who may not recognize that fight or remember that fight. Before that, he had a loss to Dominic Cruz by decision, a loss to Jose Aldo by decision. Which one was close? One of them was close, wasn't there?
The Edgar one, most people thought he won, if that's what you're thinking
Frankie
of.
Edgar. Okay.
Aldo was out. Yeah, it might have been Aldo. Aldo was close, I think.
I think Dominic kind of wrecked him because I don't think he was ever able to touch Dominic. But I feel like Aldo was closer than it should.
Yeah, I think it was Aldo that was surprisingly close.
Yeah. His last win was to Jimmy Rivera on UFC Fight Night 186 back in 2001. He won that fight by unanimous decision. Pedro Munhoz having a bit of a rough outing in his recent fights. He's going up against Gutierrez, El Guapo, fighting out of Greenville, Texas. 19 wins, 4 losses, 9 wins by KO, 1 by submission, and 9 more by decision. His most recent win against the legend Frankie Edgar in his retirement fight in, I believe this was New York at MSG. The knee that wrecked Frankie Edgar for like the 4th time in a row. Chris Gutierrez making a name, unfortunately, off of Frankie Edgar and getting a large opportunity here in Pedro Munhoz. So where do we see this fight going? Mark, give us the odds and how you see this fight.
I'm going to give you the odds. You're going to go first. That way we're going back and forth here. The odds are Munhoz minus... Wait. Did I write this down right? This would surprise me if this is actually what the odds are. No. Yeah, I wrote it down backwards. The odds are Gutierrez minus 215, Munhoz plus 170.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't have a ton of confidence in Pedro Munhoz anymore. I also think that Chris Gutierrez, as good as he is and as good as he looked, I think there is also something that can be said about the recency bias. Feeling good coming off of a win against Frankie Edgar, but obviously Frankie Edgar was at the tail end of his career. Probably the most fragile we've seen the chin of Frankie Edgar in the last 5 years, maybe even less at this point. And it's not to say that beating Frankie Edgar, especially the way that he didn't mean something. I just don't want to give too much value there that overshadows the monster that still is Pedro Munhoz. He's had some rough outings. I think the killer instinct from Pedro Munhoz might be gone just a little bit, and I think he's been playing a little bit more of a point game than he needs to be. But I think this ends up being a scrap, man. I think both of these guys come in there to bang. I think they're going to both put themselves in very dangerous positions, and I think one of them is going to end up touching one of their chins, and I don't think this goes all 3 rounds. So I think all in all, like I said, I don't really have a ton of confidence in Pedro Munhoz, so I'm going to go with the up-and-comer Chris Gutierrez. I think that his momentum is something that you can't ignore. He's been on a win streak now for quite some time. His last loss was back in 2018 against Hani Borsellos, which is going to happen. And he drew against Cody Durden in 2020. But apart from those two in his UFC career, he's essentially been either decisioning guys or TKOing guys. So I'm going to go with Chris Gutierrez, man. I think his momentum is too much. I think Pedro Munhoz is on his way out a little bit. And Gutierrez might just have another vet scalp ready to go by the time he's done.
Yeah, so Gutierrez is a bit bigger. He's 3 inches taller, actually. He has a 2-inch reach advantage. I do think Munhoz has hit this point in his career where through some tough matchups and odd results, he's actually probably become underrated. Like, okay, he lost to Aljo, who's incredible. Then he lost to Frankie. A lot of people thought he won the fight. Then he beat Jimmy Rivera. Then he lost a really close fight to Jose Aldo. If I remember right, he was competitive with Cruz early, and then Cruz kind of turned it on. Then the eye poke with O'Malley. Like, it's a lot of fights where it's like none of those indicate that Pedro Munhoz is not good anymore. It just feels like he's not winning lately, so that's kind of the perception. I do think he's still very good. He still throws nasty leg kicks, as Sean O'Malley can attest to.
Yeah.
But as Omar said, and as Mike would be proud of if he was here for me noting it, he is almost 37 years old. And Chris Gutierrez is a guy who seems to be a very similarly skilled fighter. They do a lot of the same things well. He's only 32 with significantly less wear and tear. You would think that he is going to be quicker. He's the longer fighter, which should give him a slight edge in some of these exchanges. And I do think this is a fight that could turn on a dime if someone lands. And Gutierrez's leg kicks are disgusting too, so it could be either one of them lands the leg kick that hurts a guy. Boom, fight changes, or whatever it is, something with the hands. One strike could change this fight real quick from being competitive to going one guy's way. I do think it's nearly a coin toss. I'm a little surprised by 2-1 odds for Gutierrez, but in the end, I will go with the younger fighter, who I expect to be a bit quicker, and I will say Chris Gutierrez wins the cards. UD.
Mike would be very proud of us. He would have said something about that 40-year-old dude in PFL. Like, it.
Oh, yeah.
The 5-0 guy. 5-0, perfect in his career, but I think this is where he drops the ball. He's 40 years old. He's just too old. Oh, Mike. We miss you, Mike. All right. Next on the list here, fighting at light heavyweight here, Ian Cutelaba versus Tanner Boser. Ian Cutelaba, the Hulk, fighting out of Moldova. With a record of 16 wins, 9 losses, 12 KOs, 2 submissions, 2 decisions, and 1 draw. His last few fights have been rough for the boy. He has been stopped in his last 3 fights back-to-back. Ryan Spann put him in a guillotine choke. Johnny Walker also choked the shit out of him. And Kennedy Nzechukwu TKO'd him with flying knee and punches. And if I remember that right, that was a comeback, because I think Ian Cutelaba was messing him up in round 1. But I can't remember now off the top of my head.
Could be
Sounds
right.
about right,
I can't remember either. Yeah, you might be.
Tanner Boser, the bulldozer from Bonnyville, Alberta, Canada. 20 wins, 9 losses, 11 wins by KO, 2 by submission, and 7 more by decision, with 1 draw thrown in the mix. His last fight was a split decision loss to Rodrigo Nascimento, and before that, a KO win over OSP. 2 losses just before then. So a little bit of a back and forth on the wrong side of a 4-fight streak there. 3 losses and 1 win. What are the odds for this one? And I guess this one you can take first.
Yeah, so they're pretty close. Cutelaba is minus 130 as the favorite. Tanner Boser is plus 105, so barely plus money on Boser as the dog. Boser is the pre-UFC. He had fought at light heavyweight, but in the UFC, career heavyweight. And he finally makes the drop here. And they're actually the same exact size, him and Cutelaba. So, which is not surprising. People have always said this about Boser, that he fits the mold of a light heavyweight physically. He was always small at heavyweight. He always resisted making the cut. He didn't like people bringing it up. He finally does it here. And I think he'll do well. He was always a fast heavyweight, which I think is something that he liked. Obviously, he loses that a little bit dropping down, but I think he can obviously keep up with these light heavyweights, no problem. I do think Cutelaba is always tough to deal with early. He's strong as hell. He's powerful as hell. He comes out hot, and he's very fast. So I wonder if the change from fighting heavyweights to Cutelaba could make this go south for Boser and have me end up being wrong here, but he does have wins over a couple light heavyweights in OSP and Felipe Lins, who had been at heavyweight previously. Granted, Cutelaba is probably faster than both those guys, but I'm going to say that Boser is used to dealing with bigger guys who are just as dangerous, if not more, and that he can survive whatever comes at him in round 1. And I think he can take over after that. I think Cutelaba tends to lose a little bit after that early burst he always comes with. I think Boser can start picking him apart. Maybe Cutelaba starts fading a bit. I will say Boser puts him away late, round 3 TKO.
I mean this in the most respectful way possible, but what in the fuck is this fight doing on the main
card? Yeah,
I don't understand.
Yep.
Over Nicolau and Brandon Royval. I mean, even Lando Venata, I feel like would be more fun on the main card than this fight.
He's fighting an 0-1 dude. Come on.
I don't give a shit. I literally think he would be way more excited. Like, I could give a fuck about this fight. I'll be honest with you. This does nothing for me. I don't care for Tanner Boser. I'm gonna be honest. I don't find his fighting style appealing by any stretch of the imagination. He doesn't win. I have nothing to go off when it comes to Tanner Boser. Ian Cutelaba had 1 loss coming into the UFC, and the fucking guy has 9 now. 8 losses in the UFC. At what point am I supposed to be like, oh, yeah, I totally think he's going to win? This fight is dumb, and it doesn't make any sense, and I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be getting out of this fight. So I'm going to pick this fight based off of what I want to see, and maybe not what I'm going to see or what might actually happen. But I'm going to go with Ian Cutelaba by KO round 1.
Dude, what a record that you just pointed out for Cutelaba. He is
how balls is that?
5-8-1 in the UFC.
How balls is that?
5-8-1.
Bro, imagine coming into
he's
the UFC.
He's going to be gone if he loses this fight. That'll be 4 in a row.
Imagine coming into the UFC with 1 loss, killing dudes, like murking dudes left and right in fucking Ukraine and Russia, wherever the hell he was fighting.
Yeah.
And comes to the UFC and like, I mean, look, loss, win, loss, win, win, loss, win, loss, loss, draw, win, loss, loss, loss. Like it is rough for him, man.
And he's the favorite.
And he's kind of fun. And he's fun too. Like anytime he's
he is fun. That's why he's still in the UFC. Yeah.
Yeah, we enjoy it. You know, the weigh-ins are always fun. He's always dressed up like the Hulk and acting kind of a fool. He had those 2 fun fights with Magomed. Yeah, I mean, I just wish the man had a win.
If he wins, he's finishing somebody.
I can tell you right now, if he loses, he's getting fucking cut. There's no way that continues for that much longer. I wouldn't be surprised if both of these dudes end up getting cut by the end of this fight. So,
yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
All right. Next on the list here, a light heavyweight fight between Azamat Murzakanov versus Dustin Jacoby. Azamat, the professional Murzakanov. Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Shout out to The Professional, the movie from the 90s. Well done. That's pretty dope. The Russian-born has 12 wins and no losses. Perfect in his record. 9 wins by KO, 1 by submission, and 2 by decision. His last fight against Devin Clark. Oh, this was the one where Devin Clark dropped the bag. TKO, round 3, 1 minute and 18 seconds into the round. Dustin the Hanyak. You know what? I'm not even going to bother with that right now.
Yeah,
Dustin the Hanyak Jacoby fighting out of Aaronsville, Illinois, US of A, with 18 wins, 6 losses, 11 wins by KO, 1 by submission, and 6 more by decisions. Throw 1 draw into that mix. His last fight was to Khalil Roundtree. From what I remember, a very, very competitive back and forth fight with Khalil Roundtree. A stand-up fight from what I remember as well. Just before that, he beat the brakes off of Dawoon Young. So Justin Jacoby definitely with a lot of momentum behind him. The Khalil Roundtree one, I don't even really give him too much shit for because that fight, if I remember it right, that fight really could have gone either way.
For sure.
And it might have been one where it should have gone Dustin Jacoby's way. I can't remember.
I think I did score it for Jacoby.
Right?
I remember, I think I
but
did. Or I don't know,
it was a good fight regardless.
I really can't. Maybe I didn't.
So let's get the odds here, and I will jump into a pick.
So I'll give you Hanyak. It is a Czech or Polish slang for a rascal, a heathen, or a scalawag. So that's what that is. The odds.
Well, that is something completely different in Korean, apparently.
Well, he's not Korean, so I don't think it's that one.
That's crazy.
Dustin Jacoby is the favorite. He's minus 165. Mirzakhanov is the underdog plus 135, so pretty close. What do you got?
I like Dustin Jacoby here, man. I know that Azamat is undefeated. I know he comes in having essentially finished just about everybody that he's come into contact with, including the 3 UFC folks that he has touched, including his contender series fight with Matheus Scheffel. But I love the way Dustin Jacoby fights, man. The man is a dog. He's gritty. I don't think that this is one of those fights where Azamat's going to go in there and just lay him out. You know, laying out Devin Clark, that's going to happen, obviously. Laying out Tafan and Chukwi, also going to happen, especially the way that he did it. And, you know, Azamat is creative in there. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's not afraid to throw some unorthodox shit in there. But Jacoby's good, man. Jacoby is a sound defensive person. His strikes are heavy. His leg kicks look awful, just god awful. And I think this is one of those fights where Azamat is going to get some real competition. And I don't think that this adds to his finishing record. I think Jacoby might edge this one out, man, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those split decision wins either way. But I'm going to go with Dustin Jacoby by split decision.
I, too, think this is the end of the line for Mirzakhanov's undefeated record. Dustin Jacoby is 5 inches taller and will have a 7-inch reach advantage, which is so much.
Christ.
In a fight where the dudes are more than likely going to be looking to strike. I guess Mirzakhanov could try to mix in some wrestling, and maybe this is one of those weird matchups where, like, a guy gets takedowns by virtue of being way lower to the ground than the other guy. I guess it's possible. But he likes to strike. First of all, Dustin's takedown D isn't even that bad if Mirzakhanov does go that route. He's improved his takedown D a lot. But Mirzakhanov is a guy who generally likes to strike. He tries to walk guys down. He hits hard as hell. He carries danger. But Dustin Jacoby is a high-level kickboxer. And I can't see him not handling Mirzakhanov. I really can't. I know the dude's undefeated, but I think it ends here. I just don't think his game works against a guy this good. It wasn't even working against Tafan and Chukwi until he landed that huge knee in the 3rd round. So I don't know. I'm surprised these odds are even this close. I give up if Dustin Jacoby doesn't win this fight. I really think he's the way better fighter. I will say Dustin Jacoby by a clear UD winning on the feet.
All right. Our co-main event of the evening, a featherweight matchup between good old Edson Barboza and Billy Q. Edson Barboza should need no introduction, but we give him one anyway. Fighting out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, wins at the 22 and losses at 11 here. KOs 13, submissions 1, decisions 8. His last couple fights, he has dropped to Bryce Mitchell and Giga Chikadze. Bryce Mitchell able to kind of chew him up on the ground a little bit, and Giga Chikadze squeaking out that win there with a TKO in round 3. Before that, the win to Shirin Burgos and a unanimous decision win against Makwan Amirkhani. Billy Quarantillo, Billy Q, fighting out of good old Tampa, motherfucking Florida, baby. He actually is trained with a few of the guys at my gym, so a couple of the guys walk around with Billy Q shirts that, honestly, nice. I really would love to get because those shirts are dope. Billy Q, 17 wins, 4 losses, 8 wins by KO, 5 wins by submission, and 4 more by decision. Fighting out of Gracie, Tampa South. His last win is his last fight, I should say, is a win against Alexander Hernandez by TKO. And before that, a loss to Shane Burgos by decision. What are the odds for this fight? And Mark, tell us what you think.
The odds. Billy Quarantillo is the favorite at minus 180. Edson Barboza is a plus 150 underdog.
180 seems high.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be much closer. I wasn't even sure who was going to be favored, let alone Quarantillo favored by almost 2-1.
Yeah.
But, I guess they're thinking Edson is kind of falling off a little bit, which I guess, you could make the argument. He is going to have a 1-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage in this fight, which is a bit scary to think about against a guy who's not necessarily any dominant wrestler in Billy Q, who may end up having to stand with Edson Barboza. He very likely will look to wrestle here. He's capable of it. He could pull it off, but he's not going to have the type of success that a guy like a Bryce Mitchell had or someone like that. So to me, I'm expecting exchanges on the feet. And Billy Q is a guy I usually pick. He is tough as all hell. He's a dog. He doesn't stop coming. He absorbs damage. He puts combos together. He keeps a crazy pace up, which that part does concern me, actually, as this fight goes on. But unless he can get a fair amount of takedowns, which I'm hoping we are not at that point where at least Barboza can stuff some Billy Q takedowns, I just think there's going to be a lot of exchanges on the feet with a dude in Edson Barboza who has a 5-inch reach advantage and every tool in the goddamn box in terms of striking. So I'm going with the dog here. I think jabs come through the guard all fight from Edson. I think the legs get ripped up. And I think Billy Q, as much as he can absorb damage and push a pace, I think that he starts to open up more and more as he accumulates more damage. And I think Edson can get him out of there. I'm going to say a body shot starts it, ground and pound finishes it. Edson Barboza, round 3, TKO, going with the old man.
I don't think he gets him out of there, man. I think Billy Quarantillo is a tough bastard, probably too tough for his own good, to be honest. He probably should get stopped at some point during that fight, but his mind just won't let him. I do think Edson Barboza presents a lot of issues that counter Quarantillo's forward pressured game. The only thing that has me concerned is Barboza's propensity to fight on his back foot and to fight going backwards and continuously move back. And like we've seen in Izzy's fights and a lot of these guys that are strikers and even counter strikers to a lot of to a certain extent, that game plan a lot does not really allow them to fight their fight, especially in a decision realm. A lot of times these guys spend a majority of the fight looking for this opening or openings, all the while their opponent is piecing them up, tagging them up, at least visually putting more work in than they are. So that is my big concern with Edson, because we've seen it before. We've seen him get outworked. We've seen him kind of fight on his back foot and continue to move back and never really planting his feet and throwing back, kind of what Izzy did to Pereira this past weekend, right? Had him going back, had him against the cage, and at some point Izzy said, fuck it, put his foot down, gritted, put his bit on the mouthpiece, and just threw a couple, and it ended up laying out Pereira. Barboza might need to play a little bit of that game here to counter Billy Quarantillo's forward movement, and I don't think I've ever seen Barboza do that. And so that's what's got me at a loss. I think the first round is going to be the worst for Quarantillo. I think the first round is where he eats a lot of body kicks. I think he eats a lot of leg kicks. But I think if he gets out of it, I think he wins 2 and 3. So I'm going to go with Quarantillo by a very close, a very tight 2 and 3, 29-28 unanimous decision. All right. We made it. We're here. Main event time. Max Blessed Holloway versus Arnold the Almighty Allen. Max Blessed Holloway, the pride of Waianae, Hawaii. 23 wins, 7 losses, 10 wins by KO, 2 by submission, and 11 more by ass-beating decisions for the most part. His last loss was against the legend, the great, the GOAT, Alexander Volkanovski, at least one of a few. Before that, a harrowing beating of Yair, a harrowing back-to-back beating of Yair Rodriguez. What a crazy ass back and forth fight that was. Both of them ended up in the hospital by the end of that fight. And the legendary performance against Kelvin Kattar, where he yelled in the middle of the octagon, in the middle of dodging punches, "I am the best boxer in the UFC." A sight, a clip, a moment that will live in infamy forever. Arnold Allen, on the other hand, up-and-comer, really starting to make a name for himself, put the beats on Dan Hooker, put the beats on Kelvin, well, kind of put the beats on Kelvin Kattar, but Kelvin Kattar kind of finished himself in that fight. Coming out of England, Felix Stow Suffolk.
Wasn't that the fight where Kattar got injured?
Yeah. Sorry, he blew his knee out in the second round. But he was getting pieced up a little first round.
Sorry, got it. Yes.
Led 19 wins, 1 loss, 7 wins by KO, 4 wins by submission, 8 more wins by decision. The man has been on a ridiculous win streak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fight win streak. 10 of those in the UFC, which is fucking madness. Again, most recently to Kelvin Kattar and Dan Hooker, Sadiq Youssef, and Nick Lentz before that. Even Gilbert Melendez found his scalp on Arnold Allen's resume. What are the odds here? Because Max Holloway has been off for some time. Obviously, Volkanovski put the beats on him the last time, so it wasn't the greatest performance, I guess, for an odd maker to really give confidence to Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen here. But I would expect and wouldn't be surprised if this is a close line, but Arnold Allen very well might be the edged out favorite here, I would imagine.
They gave the respect to Max. Or, I don't know where it started. Either it was them or the public gave the respect to Max, but he's a fairly healthy favorite. He's minus 185. Arnold Allen is plus 155 as the underdog.
Whoa, that's not. I didn't think we were going to go above 120 either direction. So that's very surprising. Okay.
It is your turn, sir.
It's my turn.
Yep.
I love this fight, man. I love this fight. Arnold Allen presents a lot of amazing opportunities here. I think the crazy thing about Allen is that he's been so dominant and so good in his fights that, you know, we've seen Max Holloway go through the fire. We've seen Max Holloway make adjustments and come back. And we've also seen Max Holloway take beatings at this point. We've seen one side of Arnold Allen. We've seen domination. We've seen him win decisions. We've seen him finish guys, but we've never really seen Arnold Allen in a ton of trouble. We've never seen Arnold Allen with blood dripping down his face from getting beat on and coming back to win a fight. These are all possibilities going down in a Max Holloway fight. Max Holloway's hands are nothing to sneeze at. He might not be somebody that will knock you out with one punch, but by the time you've realized that 8 punches have hit you, you might find your ass on the ground. Max Holloway is a beast still. I know he's taking some time off. I think he needed the time off. I don't think that his drive to get his belt back has waned by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I think the time off has got to have made him even hungrier, especially seeing the state of the division and kind of how things are passing him by. And Arnold Allen is hungry, man. This is a kid who is found himself in a position that he's wanted to be in his entire career. He's got the names on his resume now. He's got the opportunity in Max Holloway to truly show that he belongs with the top guys, that he belongs with the champions. And I think we've all said before that we believe Arnold Allen could be champion one day, and this is that moment where he gets to prove it to us one way or another. I think it's a tall order for Arnold Allen. I still have a lot of confidence in Max Holloway. I don't think I can really pick against Max Holloway. This might be one of those emotional picks because Arnold Allen has the tools to beat Max Holloway. I fully believe that. I don't think this is a mismatch. I don't think this is feeding him to the wolves. I don't think any of that. I think Arnold Allen is exactly where he needs to be. I think this is definitely the type of fights that Arnold Allen should be having. But I think Max Holloway, in my opinion, is the better fighter. I think his angling, his movement, his volume will all be too much for Arnold Allen. I also think the championship experience and his ability to adjust in the fight will also probably play a big role in this 5-round fight. And I think Arnold Allen might just get a taste of what the championship caliber is really about at this division, because I do think there is a large discrepancy with the top of this division and everyone else. So I think Arnold Allen is gonna put on a fight. I think it's gonna be a close fight. I do think Max Holloway will drop a couple rounds in this fight, but I think he ends up unanimously victorious in the end. I'm gonna go with 40. What is it? 48-47 unanimous decision. Max Holloway.
I feel very similarly to you. Arnold Allen is a stud. He has walked through dudes getting to this point. He is absolutely deserving of an opportunity like this. I'm glad that he's getting it. But I think that it's easy to underrate Max a bit right now because of the Volk loss and the fact that he can't get that belt anymore. But you got to remind yourself that Volk is legitimately unreal, and that him beating Max doesn't really indicate any issue on Max's end. Max is still Max. He's going to be 3 inches taller here, but he will actually have a 1-inch reach disadvantage to Allen. I think Allen is a bit too wild and I don't want to say unpolished, because he's not that. He's great. But in comparison to Max, I think Allen leaves openings that Max can exploit to land some big combos and things like that. Allen could certainly try to go the wrestling route, but it ain't easy to out-wrestle Max Holloway. He's shown that before. And I really think the fact that it's a 5-round fight with Max Holloway is a really difficult mountain to climb, because Max ain't going away. He's going to be there in round 4 in your face. He's going to be there in round 5 in your face. He's impossible to finish. I don't know if I trust Arnold Allen to still be pushing in rounds 4 and 5 after 15 minutes of the pace that Max Holloway pushes, which leads me to think that even if Arnold Allen is, say, up 2-1 after 3 rounds, that Max is still going to take that fight. And I'm not even convinced Allen would be up 2-1. So I really trust Max as this fight goes on. Not to mention Arnold Allen breaks his hands in like half of his fights. So having to go 5 rounds hitting Max Holloway's rock head is probably not the greatest deal for Arnold Allen's hands. So as random as that take sounds, I'm pretty strongly on Max here. I know Allen is undefeated. Undefeated in the UFC, one loss overall. I know there's a lot to like in his game. I'm on Max. I've now taken Edson Barbosa and Max back-to-back here, and I've said before that one of my Achilles heels in these picks is that sometimes I trust the vets too much, so we'll see what happens here. But I'm going to do it again. Give me Max Holloway. I'll say I could see it being a UD. I could see it even being a late stoppage, depending on what level of cardio we see from Arnold Allen as this fight goes on. But I will say a UD victory for Max Holloway.
Let's go. I'm just now realizing we didn't get any of fucking Mike's picks.
We should have. So we.
I didn't even know if he's prepared for picks. He's got one bun in his hand. He's got his other kid in his other hand.
Well, he's gonna have to make him for our records that we track. No, he doesn't have the other kid with him. I'm sure someone. Well, actually, they're in Michigan. Who knows? Maybe someone went out there. Family, I would hope. You would hope William's not in the hospital with him. That'd be wild.
I guess, yeah. I always see the videos of the little brother or the big brother coming in. Ooh, new baby.
Yeah, we'll have to get his picks for our records at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it though. Killed it.
We did it.
Gonna do your best Mike impression now and hit me with some trivia.
I think it's about that time. What we are gonna do here, unlike what Mike normally does, where he gives us a multiple choice and things like that, I am more ridiculous than that. So what we're going to do here is the topic here is the most Googled UFC fighters from each weight class. This is only for the men's. This does not include women because
Jesus,
this fucking list did not include women for whatever reason. They might hate women. I don't know. But these are only for the men. So a couple of these I feel like are pretty easy. Some of these might be a little bit not what you think, maybe. Who knows? So let's
I just have to guess?
Just guess.
Okay.
Heavyweight. The most Google heavyweight UFC fighter.
Does John Jones count as a heavyweight, I guess, is my first question? Because you would think.
He does count as a heavyweight.
Yeah, I'm going to say John Jones.
He is the heavyweight, most Googled UFC fighter. Light heavyweight. I will give you a hint. Remember the views that we get from our Russian and Dagestani friends.
So it's like who? Fucking Ankalaev or something? That'd be wild. I don't know if I'm guessing that. Oh, you give me the point? Wow. Ankalaev, huh? Wow.
Ankalaev.
Wow.
Didn't see that one coming.
I think I would have truly guessed Yuri if not for that clue.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That one might have been the craziest one out of all of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Middleweight. This one seems like a gimme.
It's got to be easy.
Israel Adesanya. Welterweight. And I guess this caveat is, well, I guess if I give you the fucking caveat, he's only fought at welterweight. So far in the UFC.
Colby.
Close. Hamza.
He hasn't only fought at welterweight.
He fought at middleweight?
Yeah, that's who I was going to guess until you said that clue.
Oh, because he's not really in welterweight anymore. That's why I felt like I needed to say something. Who did he fight at middleweight? Am I bugging?
Remember he knocked out Gerald Mearshart in like 10 seconds.
Oh, that was middleweight.
Yeah, that's who I was going to guess. I swear to God.
Yeah, that's my bad. All right.
I'm still betting 1,000. I mean, you gave me Uncle Live, so I'm not really betting 1,000, but okay. Lightweight. I mean, the trend would dictate that the answer is going to be Islam, but let me think about it for a second because there's a lot. Oh, wait, it's fucking Conor McGregor.
It is Islam.
No way! Over Conor?
It is Islam.
What?
Yeah, dude.
That's fucking crazy.
I really think we underestimate that side of the world.
This is Googled in history or just this year?
It says the most Googled UFC fighter from each weight class.
If it was this year, I would believe that it was Islam. History
the featherweight
is insane to me.
The featherweight one is a little odd, too. Guess featherweight, because you're not going to.
I mean, is the answer just dudes from that part of the world? Like, are you going to tell me it's Movsar Avoyev?
No, this one is not. This one is homegrown US of A, grade A beef.
Bryce Mitchell?
Good guess. That's exactly who it is.
I mean, your clue kind of gave me that, but
shit is weird though. Why is Bryce Mitchell even on this list?
I don't know, I think it's because he talks politics. To be perfectly honest,
that's a good thought. What about bantamweight? What do you got for bantamweight?
I mean, O'Malley's who comes in my brain. Let me think for a second. I mean, there's fucking Jan and the Russian connection for everybody. Those are the two. I'll say O'Malley.
Well played. O'Malley it is.
Nice.
And last, the flyweight division. Who do you have in flyweight?
I want to say Moreno. Think for a second. Yeah, I'll say Moreno.
My man.
Wow, I did pretty good.
My man's Brandon Moreno. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Nice. So what I get? What was the list? I got Moreno. I got O'Malley.
Yep.
Featherweight, I never would have got. Lightweight,
Bryce
I got
Mitchell.
wrong.
Very odd.
Welterweight, I did get, if you hadn't said that clue. Middleweight, I got. So I got 5 out of 8. 5 out of 8.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Yeah, I'll take it.
It's not bad.
I'll take it.
Some weird things on that list. But.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was definitely interesting. So wait, who was it? It was Bones, okay, Ankalaev, Wild. But I guess light heavyweight doesn't have like a true person it should be, so maybe a little less Wild.
Yeah.
Izzy, yes. Chimaev, yes. Islam over Connor's crazy to me. I'm so curious if that list is in the in the year 2022 or all time, because all time would be mind blowing to me.
I also wonder if they've taken into consideration that Connor has been inactive and maybe they didn't even put him in the list as a result.
Oh, that could be it. That could be it. In which case, my guess probably would have been Islam. Bryce is Wild, yeah, but I think it's the political stuff. And then O'Malley makes sense. Moreno makes sense. Yeah.
Bryce Mitchell over Volkanovski, though, to me, is fucking crazy.
Yeah, but Volkanovski's kind of like, like no casuals are like, let me Google Volkanovski. You know what I mean? Bryce Mitchell raps. He talks about politics all the time.
He raps?
Yeah, dude. You haven't seen Bryce Mitchell rap? He does it on Embedded and shit all the time. He's pretty good. I mean, I say pretty good. He's not pretty good. I mean, he is pretty good. Like, what I'm trying to say is, compared to other dudes who be like, yeah, I rap, and then you hear them, Bryce Mitchell's actually like, oh, shit, you kind of do rap.
All right.
Yeah. I'm serious. And I'm a hip-hop head, so I'm a stickler with who I say that about. But, yeah, Mitchell is, for a random dude rapping, he's not bad.
All
right. We fucking did it.
I think that's it. I think we're done here. For those of you still with us, we want to thank you guys for doing so. I did not give our little spiel that Mike normally gives at the very beginning. So for those of you who haven't already, please click the little subscribe button on the bottom. It does help us out quite tremendously. If you liked our video, please give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like our video, please don't give us a thumbs down. Thank you very much. If you guys have any comments you want to share with us, please do so. We do like reading your comments, especially the ones that have actual content to them. Every once in a while, we'll get a random funny one that we really enjoy. And then every once in a while after that, we get some guy that thinks we're taking things too seriously. And I promise you we're not. So go with that. Thank you guys again for your continued support and listening. Our subscribers keep going up little by little every week, so we really do appreciate that. And thank you guys. And check us out next week. Obviously, we go every week here with more MMA news and MMA updates and fight talk. And I think that's all of our coverage.
Hopefully, we'll have the return of the mic next week.
Yes.
But yeah,
hopefully
that's
he
it.
Might be on. I say he might be on paternity leave for quite some time here. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to work.
We'll try to get him back. Yeah, we'll try to get him back ASAP for it.
Yeah, but enjoy your PFL, enjoy your UFC. I mean, honestly, there's like 20 fights worth watching this weekend between the two cards. Like it's pretty solid in terms of depth. So a lot of fights you can watch this weekend.
And keep in mind, PFL is on Friday, and then UFC is the following Saturday. So it's not like you got to do it all at once. You get a nice little spacer in between. So enjoy the fights, and that's all we got, baby. So let's take us out. Peace.